Hello, welcome along, and if our intro doesn't give you goosebumps, if classics is your thing, then I don't know what else will. It's classics season. Welcome along. It's the classic Brugge de Panne today, round 8 of the Women's World Tour. 164 kilometres that the riders will tackle. You can see there, just a touch under, 163.1 in total. Starting in the historic Market Square in Brugge, or Bruges, as you will also know it, and finishing in De Panne. Thanks for your company. Martin McDonald and Danny Rowe with you to take you through today's race action. This classic started in 2018, and it was won by Jolindora. 2019, Kirsten Wild. Lorena Vivas has also won it in the past. Grace Brown, the only rider to win it solo, and then Elisa Balsamo last year. It's 13 degrees Celsius, it's 56 degrees Fahrenheit, and it is windy out there. There is your roll call of honour, your previous winners here in Brugge de Panne. We'll see. If you watched the men's race yesterday, the Muren, the famous stretch where it could blow to pieces. This is the Women's World Tour standings going into today. So Lorena Vivas still at the top with 872 points, ahead of Amanda Spratt. Lotte Kopecky with 720, still in that top 10. Elisa Balsamo, who is here today. Georgia Williams as well. Quite a few riders that you'll see not taking to the start here in Brugge de Panne today. Riders and teams being quite selective in which races they send their riders to. Down to the start. So in terms of your World Tour teams today, Trek Segafredo, ST Works, UAE, ADQ, Human Powered Health, Jacob Alula, Canyon SRAM, Phoenix de Koenig, Israel, Premier Tech. We've got Movistar, Live Racing, Tech Find, DSM, as you can see here on the up to signage. Charlotte Kool, a big pre-race favourite for them. We've also got the likes of FDJ Suez, Uno X, Ceratizit, WNT, AG Insurance, Lotto Destiny, Euler Chevalmier. We've got Life Plus Wahoo, Park Hotel Valkenburg, Proximus Alpha Motorhomes, and Coop High Tech Product. The Canyon SRAM team, Shari Bossout here from Canyon SRAM, a winner of a stage of the Tour of Normandy, comes into this in great form, but 4 riders only from Canyon SRAM today. Phoenix de Koenig, they've got a strong team here with the likes of Maria Martins, Christina Schweinberger, and also Julie de Wilde. So quite a select team. A lot of the DSs and everyone out just to direct everybody in what's going on today. Team Jacob Alula, Jess Allen, Ingrid Gaskin, Georgie Howe, Nina Kessler, Amber Pate, and Letizia Paternoster taking the start. Lorena Vivas, World Tour leader, European champion, and a pre-race favourite.
Lorena Vivas.
Team UAE, Marta Bastianelli down to start. Chiara Consoni, also a potential pre-race favourite today. And Danny, it could be one of those very attritional races today, given the wind. It could, you know, as we had in the men's race yesterday, the sprinters who've got to be super vigilant to try and make any splits and any moves that happen.
Oh, absolutely. I think it's almost certain that it's going to be a super aggressive race, very, very attritional with the wind. And actually, we could be looking at riders that we might not expect to be at the finish fighting it out for the win today. So I can't wait to get this underway.
The famous Ferrari red bike of Elisa Balsamo. Good to see Lucinda Brandt back into Trek Segafredo. She will bring some much needed power and firepower into that team. Eleanor Backstead, Ilaria Sanguinetti, and Lisa Klein also making up the team of the defending champion Elisa Balsamo. He took this race last year ahead of that rider there, Lorena Vivas, who you will see, you can see she's got the World Tour Leaders jersey, which is that burgundy coloured jersey underneath her European Champions gilet there. Marta Elisa Balsamo, you can see, is in her Italian Champions jersey. The riders rolling out from the start, so 13 degrees Celsius, that's 56 Fahrenheit was the weather forecast, 30 to 33 kilometres km/h winds, gusts of 55 to 57 though for the riders. Heading out of the market square, they had 8.6 kilometers of neutralized section to get themselves out of the city before taking to the start proper. In terms of the route, the first passage of the finish line coming after 67.2 kilometers, so 95.9 kilometers to go. So a lot of headwind, Danny, on the rollout, and it was quite wet for the riders this morning before they get to that finishing circuit. So they will see the finish twice. We've got 2 laps of 47.9 kilometers.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you saw there, Marty, some of the riders at the back of the peloton just getting rid of some of their layers as the rollout began. The weather has changed. The riders now have a little bit more sunshine, which they'll be pleased with, but it is still pretty windy out there, upwards of 30 km/h winds. And it's what we like to see, especially on De Muren, the famous crosswind section of the race where we know it splits up. The riders do have a pretty much total crosswind, if not a cross tailwind, which we know is super conducive to those echelon action.
So there's your route that the riders will tackle. Not a huge amount of elevation, given where we are in the world today. So it is very much the sprinters' classic. 163.1 kilometers. And that is fairly technical in terms of our finishing circuit. This is the peloton. In terms of what's gone on so far today, just to bring you up to speed a little bit, we have had some splits out there on the course. We then had a crash as well, 10 riders with 119 kilometers to go, and they did neutralize the race with that crash. And we then had a couple of riders abandoned, Ilse Rit and Letizia Paternoster, unfortunately. And we then had another crash just with 110 to go, and that we had both Lizzie Holden and Yara Veal going down in that. Minka Bakker, unfortunately, abandoning the race with just over 100 kilometers to go. And haven't had any reports whether those 8 riders, if any more of them, have retired, though. Our sprinters, in terms of favourites for today, we see the front here of the peloton. You've got Elena Backstead in there with the blue sleeves and the back gilet, and Ina Atosalo there in that Finnish national champions jersey. DSM on the left here in their black and blue colours. We're sort of the anticipated return to the peloton of Charlotte Kool, who started the season down at the UAE Tour in such great fashion, out sprinting former teammate Lorena Wiebes. So there's a big battle expected between those two today.
There is. We're going to have our first big showdown, I think, of Balsamo, Wiebes and Kool, although it is slightly unknown how Charlotte Kool is feeling after a bout of illness after her last race in Omloop Het Nieuwsblad. But nevertheless, she started the season on absolute top form. So there'll be a lot of nerves out there in the peloton today, especially with the weather conditions. I think a lot of the riders will be happy that it is now dry. It just changes things a little bit in terms of the technicalities of the race, but this race is all about positioning. You know, we talk about this being the World Championship of the sprinters. All our best sprinters are here in this race. However, they have to be up the front. They have to be fighting for that position in the crosswind. And I think if I was a DS, it would be about, making that decision on the road. Let's focus on making sure we're there at those crucial points, because ultimately, if you're not there, you can't fight it out for the finish, even if you are the best sprinter in the world. So we've got lots of action on our hands in the next few kilometers time. And the first time we will go through that De Moren section will be with around 62 kilometers to go. So at this stage of the race, it's all about staying attentive, being there with numbers for your team, communicating, staying fueled. This is a long race for the women, over 160 kilometres, 163.1 to be exact. We had a pretty long neutral section as well, 8.6 kilometres of neutral. So it's a big day out there for the women. Nothing that they can't handle, but it just means that nutrition is ever more important, especially on sections like this where we're covered by a lot of buildings. The wind isn't playing a huge key factor. We can see Mika Dox here just taking on some fuel at this moment in time, around 10 seconds off the front of the peloton.
So I could see Mika Dox getting off the front here for the Lotto Destiny team. So 26 years old is Mika Dox, and she's one of those riders that she's in terms of the team she was with. Laris Valdeals back in 2017. She then rode with the smaller Dolcini Van Eyck team for many years, into Lotto Soudal last year as it was, and now into the Lotto Destiny team. So she's one of those riders that's been around for many years, hasn't she? She's always a really aggressive rider, and probably not quite has the sort of results that you'd expect or expect she has in her career, given how long she's, you know, as I said, how aggressive she is in races.
No, I think not. But, you know, she's been pretty consistent throughout her career as well, and has always been, you know, one of those domestiques who's been riding for teammates, and actually had one of the best results in her career only last week in Samin de Dam, where she was 9th there and picked up a top 10. So she is a really strong rider, and I think that will give her a lot of confidence that this season she's coming into the season with form. She can be there, especially in these sort of aggressive classic races that we've got and we've had so far this season. So yeah, it's a good move here from Mika Dox.
So 19 seconds is the gap. 93.6 kilometres we're going to have of action today. So plenty of action of Brugge de Panne for you to enjoy today. We'll run you through as well some of our other riders, should it come down to a sprint later on that we do have here. That we're at the back of the peloton here. So we saw at the start Chiara Consoni, her human powered health. So we've got for human powered health taking to the start Alice Barnes and Daria Pikulik. The Phoenix de Koenig team, quite a few options in there for them. Israel Premier Tech, they've got Tita Nguyen in there as well. Shayla Tires, perhaps, for Movistar. A little bit of freedom for them. Raquel Barbieri for Live Racing Tech Find. And then for the likes of Sarah Tizzett, WNT, Cedrine Cabal, Martina Fidanza, could be the good bets for them. Back to the front with Mika Dox from Lotto Destiny. Now, one rider that we could expect to watch out for today is Clara Caponi.
Clara, aujourd'hui, ça peut être un sprint. Donc, qui dit sprint, ça.
Clara, today it can be a sprint, so maybe you will be there in the final.
C'est ma première course depuis
yeah, it's my first race since Australia. I come back from the track. I'm really motivated. It's a race that can end in a sprint, and I'm the team sprinter. I hope to be there in the final.
Parce que aussi il y a des absences.
You have a playing card today in the absence of Grace Brown or Vittoria Guazzini in your team, so maybe it's time to show you and also the other French riders that you're
et toutes les Françaises aussi, parce que vous êtes en force aujourd'hui.
Ouais, c'est ça, on est une majorité de Françaises.
Yeah, we're in majority with Emilia Farlene. We're a good group. It's my turn. I have to show that I'm the sprinter. I think it's going to be good and really hard.
Je pense que ça va être une bonne journée et bien dure.
C'est quoi les objectifs de l'équipe sur ces classiques?
The team's objectives in the Flanders Classics?
Bah, forcément d'en gagner le plus possible.
Obviously, to win the most we can, like every team. Win the most races we can, show ourselves the most, and show that we are the best team in the world.
Vous avez regardé la course homme hier?
Oui.
Alors,
have you seen the men's race yesterday? Yes. The conditions are worse than today, but there's still wind and maybe some rain. What are you expecting today?
Peut-être un petit peu de pluie. Vous attendez à quoi aujourd'hui?
Ouais, ça va être peut-être un peu moins dur avec moins de pluie.
It's going to be easier today with less rain, but we know that on this race, every time we have wind, there are all the time borders and the weather that favours them. But we are ready for them. I'm ready for them. Good to hear from Clara Caponi, the French sprinter. Micah Dox getting swept up here. SD Works, Danny, very much to the front here with Lonika Uniken and Christine Majerus.
They are indeed. You can see this is a little bit more of an exposed section. Like you said before, Marty, we are going in the opposite direction as last year, but the same as our 2018 race where Jolien Dora was victorious on that one. And again, it's all about position. You have to have numbers towards the front. You can see these little pinch points that the riders are tackling going round this right-hand corner here, a little bit of traffic furniture, and it's just meaning for those riders at the back of the peloton, they're having to make lots of accelerations that will take energy for later in the race.
So Human Powered Health through to the front. So their team today made up of Alice Barnes, Mika Kruger, Daria Pikalik, Marit Rijmakers, Marjolein von Geloof, and Lily Williams. They started the season so well, didn't they, down in Australia, Human Powered Health, with Daria Pikalik taking that first World Tour win for Human Powered Health.
Yeah, they did indeed. She had a fantastic start to the season, and I think she really surprised herself as well. She's had some really good results on the track. A lot of these riders actually coming off the track, and some of them having raced in Cairo less than a week ago. So it'll be really interesting to see how those riders, and one of those riders is Clara Caponi, who we've just heard from the FDJ team. And I think it's just brilliant how the riders can be absolutely at the top of their game in both disciplines, on the track, on the road, in cyclocross. We're really seeing the riders being able to, be victorious in both disciplines, whereas a few years ago it was really hard to do so, even though they're almost such different sports now, Marty, the track and the road, with the increase of race kilometres on the road for the women. So yeah, I think for a rider like Clara Caponi today, it'll be great for her to see where she is on the road after coming off a little bit of a track block. But you can see why there was such frantic riding at the front of the peloton, because we have narrowed now, going on to these almost bike lanes, only wide enough for 2 vehicles, which means it's just lengthened that peloton out, and it makes it even more important to be towards the front, to be able to react to any action that might happen. You can see Mika Kruger there. She was very active in last year's edition of this race. She was away with only a few kilometres to go, and unfortunately for the strong German rider, she did get swept up before that finish line. Margerus, another rider, the Luxembourg champion, who we always see, don't we, at the front of the peloton, marshalling the way, one of, if not the best domestique out there, and it's been part of the SD Works setup for many, many years, and she shows us why.
So Lorena Wiebes on your right there in that World Tour Leaders jersey with her European Champions helmet. So 62 pro victories for Lorena Wiebes, still only 24 years old. If you're with us on the TV, you are off for a short commercial break. Make sure you come back. So Human Powered Health, very much to the front here. Mika Kruger. So the German rider, you can see Charlotte Kool on your left there in the DSM jersey, the black jersey with the 2 blue stripes. Lucinda Brand in here for Trek Segafredo. You can see just a couple rows back from the front. Maria Martins from the Fenix de Koenig team. The former Portuguese national champion, another rider that's come back from the track, took a European scratch title over there in Grenchen, did Maria Martins. So watch out for the Portuguese rider today as well. It's very much up towards the front. Ines van der Paar here for the Lotto Destiny team, and you can see Danny through the tight twists and turns here. You've got that kind of lasso effect, isn't it? The riders where you just kind of get clinging on to the back of the peloton as it whips out of these corners.
Yeah, absolutely. And it just means that these riders are having to make those extra accelerations, whereas it's pretty calm towards the front of the bunch. It's a pretty technical section, but the riders are mostly going to turn into now a headwind section. So it means there should be more of a lull within the peloton. You'll see the peloton spread all across the road before they head up towards Vern, which is another very technical section. It is sheltered from the wind, but it is important to be well placed, because otherwise you're going to see these small gaps develop through the twists and the turns of the town before we head towards the Mürren, which we know is going to be so decisive. We saw that yesterday in the men's race with 2 laps to go. So yeah, again, important for communication between the teams. Fueling at this stage in the race, you can see a couple of riders back at their team cars. They've just lost junction between the back of the peloton, so they'll be able to use the cars now to try and get back in contention to the back of this peloton. But yeah, we've seen a lot of crashes, Marty, haven't we, towards the beginning of this race. Unfortunately, Letitia Paternoster has had to abandon. She would have been Jaco Alula's designated sprinter for today, and it just goes back to what I was talking about in terms of having an A, B and C plan going into the race. A lot of these riders, these teams would have sat down with their director sportif, had a discussion between themselves as to their best chances of winning, but ultimately they have to be able to make decisions out on the road. It might be that one of them has a bad day, one of them gets caught out with a crash or an injury, or actually just doesn't make that select group in the crosswind. So you have to be very, very adaptable and make calls out on the road, and that comes with the experience, and it takes good leadership out on the road between the riders and the director sportif in the car to make those calls as and when it happens.
Christina Schweinberger we saw up towards the front, national champion of Austria. Welcome back. If you're rejoining us, Julie Hendricks back at the car here for the Lotto Destiny team, and it's one of those days as well. The sort of classic that Brugge de Panne is in terms of when do you go back to the team car, because at any time, if the winds are as strong as they are today, the last thing you want to do is get caught out back at the team car.
Definitely, and that's all about, again, experience, communication, and doing your homework. A lot of these riders would have been on to, Velo Viewer and programs like that, looking at the GPX file, looking at the wind direction, to not only see where the decisive points are in terms of being at the front, but also when the opportunities are to be able to go back to the car, to be able to either have a chat with the DS one-on-one, even though they do obviously have a radio in this race, but go back for bottles, etc., etc. If you are one of those domestics looking after your teammates, it's really important to be able to choose those moments correctly, to be able to fuel your teammates. So they would have a chat with the director sportif if they are thinking about coming back to the car. What do you think? Is this a good moment? And then make the call out on the road, but it doesn't always go to plan.
You see Phoenix de Koenig very much up to the front here. They've got Julie de Wilde sitting about third wheel right behind Avi Kuipers. So they're, you can see constantly all the teams, there's that constant ebb and flow as they try to keep their sprinters up towards the front. SD Works just keeping Lorena Vivas in position. And for them, just with only 4 starters today, we'll just go back. We've got a issue here. So Lona Mertens from just need a little handlebar adjustment from the AG Insurance team. Has just hit a bump clearly, and your bars dropping. So AG Insurance to Dow Quick Step to give the team. This name's taken a while though, isn't it? Sometimes you've got to make a decision if you just change bikes.
It is, and that was a pretty long standstill and adjustment there, but thankfully still in the cars, so we'll be able to use the team cars for a bit of shelter to get back to the peloton. But I had a similar story a long time ago when I first started racing, and I was the one in charge of my bike, and I'd unpacked. I think I'd been on a training camp and hadn't done my bars up properly, went straight into a race. Like you said, Marty, hit a little bit of a pothole or a bump in the road, and I thankfully stayed upright, but handlebars straight down. And obviously didn't have an Allen key in my pocket at that time, didn't have any mechanics behind me in a car, and that was my race over. So thankfully for a lot of these riders, they don't have to look after their own equipment, but it's important nonetheless for these riders to know, you know, the basic mechanics of a bike, especially when you're out kind of training on your own, to be able to fix a puncture and do some, like I said, simple mechanics to make your life easier, so that your training day isn't over if you have the slightest of problems. But it did look to me like it was just a slight tightening there of the handlebars.
84.5 kilometres to go. If you are just joining us today, welcome aboard. Classic Brugge to Panne. 163.1 kilometres today, round 8 of the Women's World Tour for 2023. So going into today, if you weren't with us at the top of our programme, Lorena Wiebe still leading the World Tour overall from Amanda Spratt. Not here today. Lotte Kopecky third with 7:20. Lotte also not starting today. In fourth, Grace Brown, and Grace Brown, former winner, not here today with the FDJ Suez team. Elisa Balsamo in fifth spot. She is here and loves this race. Defending champion Trek Segafredo are at the top of the team standings after that great win as well for Shirin Van Anrooy at the weekend. SD Works second, FDJ Suez are third in the team standings at the moment. Canyon, SRAM, UAE ADQ, Movistar, EF Education, TIBCO, Jayco Alula, DSM and Human Powered Health are your top 10. And in our young rider standings, it is Micah van der Down leading with 10 points. She's level on 10 points with Henrietta Christie, Gaia Realini, Anna Shackley, Shirin Van Anrooy, Puk Pieterse, Eleonora Gasparini, Josie Nelson and Elise Allion is your top 10 in our best young riders standings in the Women's World Tour. 83.7 to go, still a decent size peloton that we have together. We had some early splits in the race. Uno X very much up towards the front. So Uno X come into the race today with Annina Atusalo, who you can see there, the national champion of Finland. She's a great finisher as well as Annina Atusalo, just 19 years old, as Anna Shackley now pedals through to the front for Team SD Works. But Amelie Deirdrickson, Marta Bjerg, Wilma Alausen, Julie Leth and Amelie Luttroy is the Uno X team. So do you think, Danny, do you think that for Uno X, giving the young Finnish rider a run out potentially in the sprint today?
I think so. We saw it, didn't we, in the UAE Tour? They were riding for Annina Athosalo, who you were just talking about then. She was leading out, actually. She was in a really great position. She ended up 13th on stage 1, 16th on stage 2, respectively. She's still so young. So, you know, she's got so much developing and so much to learn from experience of these races. And she will take something home from each and every race that she rides now. They do have options. They've got a strong team. Amelie Deirdrickson, I'm sure, will be another one of their riders who will be a designated sprinter. She'll be looked after by the team, and it will be about making those calls on the road, especially after the last crosswind section, as to who they will be sprinting for. You can see Julie Leth as well, who is in the middle of the peloton now. She is one of the most experienced riders in this peloton. She is coming off the track, but she does have good form. Recently riding in the Madison in Cairo with teammate Amelie Deirdrickson, who she's also a teammate on the road and who is present in their team. So they've got that great communication between themselves, and they will be able to guide the team as to their best case scenario when they get closer to the finish. So I've been really impressed with the Uno X team at the start of this season especially. It's a relatively new team, and it does take time to develop, to communicate, and pick up those big results. And I think it'll only take a couple of those results to really give the team a huge confidence boost that they need to take that step forward.
So I called it SD Works, very much on the front. Are you surprised that SD Works are doing so much to control this early on, given the size of the team, that they're limited in numbers, or with Lorena Vibis, we know she doesn't always need a full lead-out train, does she? She can just quite happily freelance sprints as long as she's got someone just to keep her in the right position coming in towards the finish.
Yeah, I think so. I am actually questioning the tactics at the moment. Yes, it is very important to be near the front, but it's not a hugely decisive part of the race, and there's still just under 20 kilometres to go till de Muren, which we know is going to be the first real place where the action kicks off. And like you said, Marty, there's only 4 riders in the team, Anna Shackley being more of a pure climber, Christine Margeroos, hugely experienced, Lonika Uniken loves these sorts of conditions, but they are wasting energy, I believe, at this point in the race.
Marga Lopez here, just getting tailed off the back. Spanish rider from Proximus Alpha Motorhomes, Dolcini. So riders just the soigneurs, you can see, just making the most of one of the largest rises on the course today. But there's not a huge amount of places for the soigneurs to hand up bottles today, is there?
No, absolutely not. So they have to use one of those almost small bridges where the riders might be riding at a couple of kilometres an hour slower to be able to pick up the fuel that they need.
Team DSM on your left, and DSM, so Pfeiffer Georgie, Danique Hangeveld, you've got Megan Jastrow, Franzi Koch, Maeve Plouffe, and to work for that rider there, Charlotte Kuhl, you can see in your picture. Live Racing, they've got Raquel Barbieri in the team in purple, Live Racing Tech Find. So all of the sprinters very, very vigilant at the moment. The Canyon SRAM team with 4 riders. So Maaike van der Down, it's 4 riders, but what are 4 riders, you would say? Maaike van der Down, he took her first World Tour podium in Ronde van Drenthe. Agnieszka Skalniak, the rider on the front. Tiff Cromwell, and then Shari Bossau. Important for not just Canyon SRAM, but Shari Bossau, that win in the Tour of Normandy last week. Really important win for the Belgian.
It was indeed, and I think it will give her a huge amount of confidence coming into, this series of classics that they're going to face now, as to that she can, be really competitive with the world's best. So she has also been riding the track. She's obviously holding form off the track as well. So the Canyon SRAM team have a really, really solid team. Unfortunately, Sarah Roy and Soraya Paladin not starting, but all of these riders know how to be well positioned. Tiffany Cromwell will be their captain, their leader on the road. She's always very much present, loves the crosswind action. And Maaike van der Down as well is another one of those riders with form, and showed that recently with a 3rd place in Drenthe. The riders now, Marty, are just heading towards Vern, which is a technical section. That's why you're seeing a little bit of more of a fight for the front of the peloton. It's twists and turns. It's important to be near the front to stay out of trouble.
It certainly is, and Maaike van der Down is a few riders back from the front, and we caught up with her before the start.
Yeah, of course, we aim always to go with start with 6, but last week the team did a stage race in Normandy, and 2 riders fell out, and one with a bad head injury, and one with a broken. Yeah, I don't know what it is in English. So it is what it is. Of course, you want to start with 6, but we are here with a strong team, and I think we can do something nice today.
But it changes the plan of your team?
No, I think nothing changed with the plan, with the team, and we have a clear plan, and we go for that.
So with your 3rd place in Van Drenthe in Netherlands, you have already responsibility in your team today?
I think in Drenthe we saw that we can sprint for the win and for the podium, and I think if we have a strong team today, and everything goes in the way we want it, we can do something strong in the finish and again go for that win.
Okay, but with the wind, it's another race, you think, today?
I think everyone knows the Parkers, and the wind will be really strong today, and especially on the part where it will be crucial, the wind is perfect to have a hard race, to make a hard race. So we'll be excited to see.
And for Canyon, only one victory this year is not, I guess, the perfect starting season for Canyon, but hopefully this classic campaign will bring some good results.
Yes, we aim for that win, and we're gonna make the best of it with the team.
Thank you, Mikey. Thank you.
Good to hear from Micah van der Down. So Canyon SRAM coming in with, as she said, with a clear plan today, and they've got both Magnus Backstedt and Danny Christmas in the team car today.
What a duo. I mean, that's a force to be reckoned with. Really nice to have both British experts in their car, and I'm sure they'll be instrumental in their team results today. But Micah van der Down, I'm sure, being the leader as the strongest sprinter within their team, just a real shame that they're only starting with 4 riders as well, Marty. And that's one thing that we've been talking about, isn't it? About the kind of the quick development of women's cycling, and whether actually we're kind of developing too quickly. A little bit of trouble for Elisa Balsamo. You can see she's just making the back of the peloton now. She was back in the team cars momentarily, and you can see trying to move straight to the front. She's got teammate Lucinda Brand with her, who I'm sure will help her guide her way straight to the front. You can see on the left-hand side of the peloton there, frantically trying to move up through this technical section.
And some teams coming in with a lot smaller riders. It's as well in terms of the with size of teams, because some teams, you know, if they do lose riders to illness injury, they are struggling some days to field a full team.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's not just riders, it's staff as well. There's not enough backup ultimately for so many race days with dual programs. It's amazing that we're seeing this growth, but actually I think it might have gone a little bit too quickly. We're not kind of developing the base of that pyramid, and I think teams just don't have the resources for the development teams at the moment, and they're on a limit to race the current calendar, which is why we're seeing, you know, such reduced fields even in these biggest World Tour teams.
76.6 kilometers to go, and SD Works, Lorena Vibes, you can see there, all very much to the front here. Your sprinters teams, you see Clara Caponi on the right there, just in those red and blue colours of FDJ Suez. And the French rider, you heard in our interview a little while ago, really keen to do something today, is Clara Caponi, getting that opportunity to sprint for the team. Christina Schweinberger from the Phoenix de Koenig team just over to the Soigneurs along the side, just to make sure that they grab a bottle. Lourdes Oyabide there wearing number 85. Victoria Gilman there wearing 115 for that FDJ Suez team. And then you've got April Tacey towards the back there for the Life Plus Wahoo team. They field today Tiffany Laurence from France, Maddie Leach, Kate Richardson. Could see Maddie Leach and Kate Richardson, the two British riders up there. Kaya Risch, April Tacey and Babette van der Wolf, who did take a little bit of a tumble earlier on, did Babette van der Wolf. The Phoenix de Koenig team, Julie de Wilde and Avi Kuipers here, very much to the front. Julie de Wilde there in that blue jersey there, just coming up towards the front. Fast finisher is Julie de Wilde, such a talent as well. And it's been interesting to see the sort of growth and development of Julie de Wilde as well. She's another rider that coming into any sort of race like this, like Anina Atosalo, those young riders that are sort of developing really strongly. You just can never discount them. You know, you never know when it's eventually, you know, at World Tour levels just going to click for them.
No, definitely not. And generally it just takes that one race, that one big result that gives them that confidence to then shine. We talk about, success breeding success, and she's been one last season who was so consistent in her results and just went from strength to strength throughout the season, finishing with some really strong results, and her last race was the Corona Nations, where she was 9th in that time trial. Just so it shows the strength of Julie in that one as well. So absolutely, we've got some real rising stars coming through our World Tour peloton now, and I just think it's incredible how they step in from the junior ranks into the World Tour peloton, and they're absolutely capable, even though the distances of the races are so different as well. But they've just had that real kind of support from the teams that they're stepping into on training camps, making sure they're not over raced as well. They've got really good coaches behind them that can look after the development of the individual rider.
Welcome back if you're rejoining us on the TV. We are on the classic Brugge to Panne today. 74.3 kilometers to go. All of the sprinters teams keeping their fast finishers up towards the front of the peloton. You can see the pressure very much on. We're heading towards the Muren, which is the famous section of the course before we head back in to De Panne. So 2 laps of this 47.9 kilometer circuit. And you can see Canyon SRAM, DSM, Human Powered Health and AG Insurance very much up towards the front of the race. The wind for the riders today, 30 to 33 kilometer an hour, kind of constant wind, gusts of 55 to 57 kilometers an hour. Still with 73.7 to go though, Danny. We had some early splits, so still a really decent sized peloton here at the moment, but we are starting to just see some cracks over the last couple of kilometers.
We are. The riders have just turned onto a crosswind section as we head towards the Muren. Thankfully for the riders that have been distanced from the group, we saw Alice Barnes unfortunately there in that group, that small group that had just been broken from the back of the peloton. They will turn into a long headwind section before the real fight where we go into that cross tail. But you can see the echelon action starting now. Clara Caponi coming through for Team FDJ. Lorena Wiebers is safe. So we're going to just be looking out for our key sprinters here. There's still such a long way to go, but it's really, really important at this stage to save energy. Make sure you're in the splits, even if it does, and I do expect it to, come back together in the long headwind section that we've got between around 94 kilometer race and 100 kilometers.
So DSM, and you can see Maria Martins up there for Phoenix de Koenig. So we're starting to see the likes of Caponi, Wiebes, all of the sprinters, Balsamo in that Italian champions jersey. And there is again that point, Danny, where the echelons start to form. Is there a big roar that goes up in terms of the echelons forming? And again, just sort of getting into echelons and having that sort of quick thinking to sort of, when you get that first echelon, forming that second echelon as well to really, because sometimes we do get an echelon and then everyone lined out in the gutter behind.
Yeah, definitely. And it comes with experience, it comes with planning, and ultimately it comes with being there at the right moment and being able to ride in an echelon, which the Dutch and the Belgian riders are so good at. But it was something that I really struggled with as a rider, just because I hadn't had that exposure. As I developed in cycling, for the British riders, a lot of the time we race on closed circuits, motorcar racing circuits, where we weren't really exposed to having to ride in an echelon formation. And it was only then when we came over to Holland and Belgium and tackled these really open fields as to really learning how to ride in an echelon formation. Some riders better than others. It's also confidence as well, being able to make sure you're in that position. You can see how much it's split now, Marty, on this crosswind section that the riders are tackling.
The hammer's gone down at the front, as Cecilia Ludwig always likes to say, dropping the big hammer on the front. We're in 3 distinct groups here, and you can see riders scrabbling around for positions, trying to get themselves across and in to the group just ahead. And so you can just see Theresa Numanova. There's Titat Nguyen for the Israel Premier Tech team. There's Lisa Klein in there for Trek Segafredo. That's unfortunate for Trek Segafredo. She would be a rider that you would want in that that lead out. But you can see this race now just starting to splinter under the pressure. Numanova trying to get herself back in there. Look at the pressure, though, at the front. And you've got that sort of 10 riders almost now at the front. And everyone, we're just splitting again in the centre. And the alarm bells are definitely ringing here, Danny.
They are ringing, and if you're not in that front group, you have to keep battling it on. Only in a couple of kilometres time, the riders will take a right-hand turn where they'll have around a 5-6 kilometre section of pretty much pure headwind. So that is an opportunity for the riders to be able to get back to the front group. But for now, it's very, very stressful for these riders. The riders that are at the front to maintain their position, but more so for the riders behind that have missed this split and find themselves battling in the wind. And it's it's absolutely savage to be in that position where you can see the riders ahead of you being able to be sheltered in that echelon. And you can see Elisa Balsamo very composed. They're communicating on the road, but it's so much easier to be at the front rather than behind. This is the really small canal bridge that the riders will take that right hand turn, and then the riders are going back into a headwind. So again, an opportunity for any riders that have been distanced to get back into the peloton, and also for it to be a potential big lesson for them not to get stuck there again.
Shari Boss out here on the front. So the Belgian rider, Maaike van der Down, her teammate. So she's wearing that dark blue, light blue World Tour Best Young Riders jersey, is Maaike van der Down. So Canyon SRAM have got their 4 riders, and look at this, how exposed it is here. And that's why this peloton just starts to get fractured under the pressure. And you can see it just getting lined out here with 70 kilometers to go. So Canyon SRAM with their small team of the same numbers as well as Team SD Works. Elisa Balsamo, though, in this bet, just float like Lorena Vibas behind her, just floating around the front of this this peloton. You wouldn't expect anything else, though, would you? Because she's the Italian, she loves racing in Belgium.
She does. She really does. And she loves getting stuck in. And recently, Trek have come away from Binder with another 1-2, with Shirin van Amrooy taking the top step of the podium, and Elisa Balsamo just behind on that second step, taking the reduced bunch sprint there. So morale is absolutely high in that team and for our Italian champion, Elisa Balsamo. And I'm sure she'll be really looking forward to getting stuck in today. She's been very much present throughout the whole of this race so far, as have a lot of the Trek Segafredo team. Lucinda Brown, we can see how instrumental she will be. This is her first road race back for the Trek Segafredo team, and already marshalling Elisa Balsamo back to the front after a problem that she had earlier in the race. And you can see now the difference in the way that the peloton is riding. The road has narrowed and the wind direction has changed, so it is a big opportunity. You can see the group behind that have been distanced previously from that crosswind action. They will be able to get back on now. This is around a 5 kilometre section before we hit that crucial Demuren for the first time, and we'll see which teams are up for really trying to put the hammer down to try and split this race to pieces, and I'm very, very excited.
You can see great helicopter shot here, just the 3 distinct groups that we are in now. You've got Trek Segafredo, Lucinda Brand. Good to see her back in the racing. As Danny said, first road race of the season for Lucinda Brand, and the battle behind the teams just trying to get themselves back into the mix. There, you can see Van der Down on the outside. Ilaria Sanguinetti, the Trek Segafredo rider there, not far from the front, just on the wheel of her Italian teammate Sanguinetti, and another rider that really is has made a great start to the season for the Trek Segafredo team, but it looks like that second group might get themselves back in there. Marta Bastianelli just talking into that radio, just checking which teammates are about to make contact with the back of the group. So big sigh of relief for that second group there as they're just about to make contact with that front group. So this third group now almost back into the mix as well. Just on the back of the group, Julie Hendricks. So they're just making contact. And at this point as well, it's about trying to get you move up if you can, which is always easier said than done in Flanders, isn't it? Moving up through the bunch.
Yeah, it really is. And again, something that I struggled with and only kind of got to grips with in the last year of my cycling career. You can see just as the road widened there, Tiffany Cromwell took her opportunity to just make it round to the front of the group. You can see the Anna Trevisi from the UAE team talking into the radio, communicating. And it's a real skill. And you can see these riders at the front of the peloton. Romy Kasper, another one. Oh dear, looks like a rider in the ditch there.
Titat Nguyen, unfortunately, has ended up in the ditch. Oh, that's a shame for Titat. She's a fast finisher, and you just saw Shayla Gutierrez just kind of come to a halt for Movistar. Hopefully Titat's okay. She's up and out of the ditch, and it's quite a drop sometimes from the side of the road into those ditches. Not the most pleasant of landings sometimes as well. Just to get a replay here of the back of the bunch. Almost just looks like she touched. We'll just get the aerial shot here. Oh, just kind of looks like everyone came together, just almost a touch of wheels and turned right.
Yeah, I think so. Hopefully Titat Nguyen is okay. Good to see her out of the ditch, just waiting for the team car, it seems.
So the 30-year-old rider from Vietnam is back up and on her way. Let's hear from Marta Bastianelli.
So, Marta, 1 victory this year and above all 3 podiums in Belgian Classic. This is a good season so far for you.
Yeah, I started well in this race in Belgium. I am very happy for this, for me and for my team. This is a block. It's the last dance, and I hope do good for me and for my team, my sponsor, etc. And I am happy for this, but I don't think too much about this is my last race, because I prefer focus for the race and for have the best.
And you like this race, huh? Brugge de Panne third last year. This is a race that suits you.
Yeah, last year it's a difficult finish because there is a big crash. I finished the race third, and for sure it's a good present for the team, the podium. And today there is another chance, and I hope do good with also the sprint with Chiara Consonni, and we check the situation in the race, because there is too much windy, probably don't arrive the big peloton in the final.
Tell us about the race. It's a long race with a lot of kilometers on the women's calendar. That's what makes the race so difficult.
No, I think when the race is long, it's not the problem, because more time it's good. So we are a professional rider, and it's good we have the good race like this. No problem.
Thank you, Marta. No problem.
Thank you.
Great insight there from Marta Bastianelli in terms of the distance.
Yeah, really nice. And it's something that I've said time and time again. It's not that these women cannot handle this race distance. In my opinion, it just changes the dynamic slightly. Not so much 160 kilometers, but if we're talking about being kind of equal with the men's of race days of 200 kilometers plus, and these multiple day stage race or multiple week stage races, maybe it will change that real exciting unpredictable nature of women's racing that we all really love. Yes, we do want to see growth within the sport, but not too quickly. And actually, it's something that we relish from the women, that actually, you know, we can't predict any of these races. We talk about this being, you know, the race that will finish in a bunch sprint. It's the World Championship for sprinters, and it was only 2 years ago where Grace Brown took that incredible solo victory. So actually, it's up for debate as to whether the women should race as long and as far and for as many race days as the men. In my opinion, we shouldn't. But, you know, for today's race, they are absolutely more than capable of racing over 160 kilometres.
Anna Shackley in the centre, the young British rider, and again another rider that's really we're sort of starting to see glimpses as well for SD Works, especially when the road goes up, that Anna Shackley starting to get that little bit of freedom within SD Works, as we're seeing in Trek Segafredo with the likes of Shirin van Amroy.
Definitely. And again, she's only 21 years of age and she's in one of the best World Tour teams. So it is going to be limited in terms of her opportunities. And it only really takes that one key race where she can show what she can do in a leader's role. And she was that leader in the UAE Tour. She was fourth on general classification. Another crash.
Agnieszka Skalniak, you just saw the way that everyone was trying to move up there as well, and they had a bit of compression, and it looks like we've got a rider down just ahead as well.
And this is what we're talking about in terms of that team stress. A lot of the X team come down towards the back of the peloton. We're heading towards the Moran, so it's frantic, it's nervous, it's a washing machine effect. Everyone's trying to get closer and closer to the front, pick up off a few riders, but actually that can be at the detriment sometimes of crashing. Romy Kasper, she is one of, if not the leader for the AG Insurance Sudal Quick Step team today. So she'll want to get back to this peloton as quickly as possible, but this is taking a real amount of time here.
Findel Bar for the Israel Premier Tech team. And this is the problem as well, isn't it, when the race splits and is starting to come back together, because the cars sometimes can get delayed behind what they call the barrage. The commissaires put that barrage in between the groups so that if a group looks like it can potentially come back, and it depends greatly on where your team car is in the team car order behind.
Yeah, definitely. Sometimes they're so far back you can't even hear the radio. That's why it's so important to be able to communicate with your teammates. But for Fendel Bar here, this is a really, really slow bike change. It's such a critical moment in time. And again, it's about, you could see that for Agnieszka Soyak there. She took a risk. She was riding in the ditch, and the ditch had a huge pothole. So trying to move up, you have to weigh up whether it's worth it as well, whether you're in the position and that you have to accept going into a crosswind section and do your best to move up when you can, or take a risk and potentially crash and end up, a long way behind and having to chase back and actually race potentially being over. So it's about making those calls on the road. You can see now the echelon action has started. Lucinda Brand and Team DSM at the front of the group.
They are indeed. The hammer's going down at the front, and it's DSM as we head towards De Moorden that are starting to really put the pressure on. Look how much damage that is doing, those crashes, and also it's starting to just stretch again under the pressure of DSM and Trek Segafredo at the front. You just see riders here just getting tailed off the back. Ava Björman there, Shari Bossout, Lorena Vibis, Balsamo, Charlotte Kuhl not far from the front, Micah van der Down, Christina Schweinberger all up towards the front. Balsamo in that Italian national champions jersey through to the front. They know that they've got to be in this at the front and in the position if they want to win this race. Julie de Wilde up there. 63.4 to go. Let's go and hear from one of our pre-race favourites, Charlotte Kuhl. We caught up with her a little bit earlier on today.
In the past, you were not the team leader. This year, you have your chance. Do you want to do well in this classic?
Yeah, I think we have a really strong team here again, and it will be, I think, different than last year's because the wind will play more a role, I think, this year. So we will see who's there, and for sure we aim to be with a lot of girls in the final.
The favorite here, the big favorite is Lorena Wiebes. You know her well. You haven't beat her this season, so you do it again today? You want to do it again?
Yeah, if it will become to a bun sprint, for sure I will try to be there again, and yeah, we'll see how that goes.
Thank you, Charlotte.
Thank you.
Good to hear from Charlotte Kool. Tiff Cromwell moves through towards the front. There's Ilaria Sanguinetti. Lorena Wiebes keeping herself up and out of in a position. Charlotte Kool just moving up there. And Charlotte, you know, you've got to say, you know, big respect to Charlotte Kool in terms of stepping up. Lorena Wiebes a little bunny hop off the side and back onto the road there. Always got to be careful with that. But for Charlotte Kool, you know, being the lead out rider and stepping up into that big, you know, sprinter position, you know, she's soaking up and taking the pressure. It doesn't always work for everyone, does it?
No, it doesn't. But she's just shown what caliber of sprinter she is. And it's a shame that she's going to be, you know, compared to Lorena. Will she beat her again, time and time again throughout this season? And what I find really, really impressive with Charlotte Kool is she says that she just focuses on herself, on her own tactics, of the team's communication when they come to a sprint. She's not looking at where Lorena Wiebes is. She's purely trying to get the best performance out of herself, and I think that's why we've seen her, you know, come to the fore, have already 2 victories in the UAE Tour, and I think we'll see a lot more from Charlotte Kool in the rest of this Classics campaign.
I've done a few Volta Catalonias as a commentator and sat in a snowy car at the top of a mountain. Dan Lloyd and I had a great day out once, getting stuck in the snow in the car that the organisers gave us on way to a mountaintop finish down in Volta Catalonia. That's a story for another day. Back to Scarlett Sauron there from Park-Hotel Valkenburg, and you can see there riders fighting for position. Elena Backstead here wearing number 3 for Trek Segafredo. They're still keeping the pressure on at the front of this one. They're really trying to split it across this part of the course. If you are just joining us today, we are on the 2 laps of our 47.9 kilometre circuit, and DSM are really trying to do the damage here. You can see Amelie Deirdrickson's that second wheel there for Team Uno X, and under the pressure of this big effort at the front, really trying to split this race down. And DSM coming into today with a very strong team, and just those little gaps just starting to open yet again in this one. We'll see if they can just persist with this one, but it does bode well for the sort of second loop around the Muren.
It does, and you can see a lot of riders present here at the front, and the riders have still got around 4 kilometres on the longest stretch of this race to be able to split this peloton to pieces. We can already see how much it's split, how lined out it is. There's gaps here, there and everywhere. The riders are stuck in the right-hand gutter, the wind coming from their left shoulder. Elena Backstead being caught out for the Trek Segafredo team, so she'll be hoping when the riders come off this section towards the finish into Panne that it will calm down a bit. But this is where we saw the men's race split to pieces, and that was where we saw that group of around 25 riders who then split into the 4 that went to the finish, and it was race over for a lot of the peloton. Look at the damage here, Marty, that's being done by the work of DSM and Trek Segafredo, just to name a few. Amelie Deirdrickson, a rider from Uno X, who was also there. So she's held the form coming off the track season, the World Cup in Cairo, that was only a few days ago. After a long travel, that's really, really impressive. Lorena Wiebes also there.
Yeah, impressive rider. And Alice Barnes back in the mix here. And is this the point now where this race finally blows to pieces for In this one, you get the second group, Majerus in there. It looks like Clara Caponi. So in this front group, 5 for Georgia, Christina Schweinberger. You've got Micah van der Down in that blue jersey, Shari Bossout. You've got Amelie Deirdrickson, Julie de Vilder in the blue, just on the back of the group. So Bossout and van der Down making it in there for Canyon SRAM. Second group just behind them, 58.6 kilometers to go. The makeup of that front group, though, if they can take with this one, even for Lorena Vivison and Elisa Balsamo, sprinting from a much smaller group like this is a much more, you would say, they'd quite relish that prospect potentially.
Yeah, this is Raquel Barbieri, who is, again, another one of the world's best sprinters who's not made it into the front group. But going back to what I was talking about at the beginning of our coverage, it's not necessarily a sprinter that wins on a day like today, but one that has, the most left in the tank. And it might be that our key sprinters, our Lorena Wiebes, our Charlotte Kool, haven't got their usual sprinting capacity if the race is super hard. So it really does open the race up when the race is ridden like this, and I think that's why we're seeing such aggressive racing from the teams that don't have those pure sprinters. Amelie Deirdrickson, yes, she's won the World Championships before, but we haven't seen her win against the likes of Charlotte Kool, Lorena Wiebes. So for the team of Uno X, it's in their best interest to make it as hard as possible, to take that kind of top edge away from the likes of Wiebes and Kool and Balsamo, to make it as hard as possible.
It's a good move, though, for Amelie Deirdrickson, going from Trek Segafredo as she was over to the Uno X team. Marta Bastianelli here. She did have a crash earlier on today. You can just see some mud on her left sleeve. For the UAE ADQ team, you're just looking ahead. It's kind of agonising in this position, isn't it? You can just see those kind of groups and the race riding up the road. But Phoenix de Koenig with Schweinberger and de Vilder in this group. Christina Schweinberger, over the last couple of seasons, she kind of was in a bit of the shadow of her sister for a couple of years, and for a lot of her career. And she just seems, with the support and the backup now of that Phoenix setup, just the last couple seasons, taking that Austrian national road title as well, has really impressed me.
Yeah, she's been hugely impressive, and 8th in Newsblad. You can't take that sort of victory, that sort of result away from her, and I think that's what's given her that confidence to now be fighting in a group like this. I think she's really happy within this team. She's got the backing of the team, and they've got options for today. Some really fast finishers, like you mentioned at the start, Marty, with Maria Martins, who finished 5th here last year, and obviously Julie de Vilde, who's had 2 top 10 results in Hageland and Nokkakurse in the last few weeks. So absolutely split to bits here. This is a group of 5, including Marjorie. So it's all about cohesion between these little groups as to how long this sticks for, and whether any groups come back to together.
After a strong Alfredo Binda for you, you are coming here in a good shape, for sure.
Yes, last Sunday was a really nice race for us. We were very happy, and I really hope to feel good today, and we are a good team. There is a wind, and so we will try something.
And what will be a strategy for the team? Lead in the race and control?
Yes, as I said, we are a good team, and all of us like to ride in the wind, and so I think we will try something before the finish line.
Thank you, Lisa, thank you.
Great to hear from Elisa Balsamo. So for DSM, though, they've got Pfeiffer Georgie and Megan Jastrab in this group. Julie de Vilde, just having a quick look at the camera. You've got Christina Schweinberger and Julie de Vilde in there. Amelie Deirdrickson, Elisa Balsamo, Shari Bossout, Micah van der Down. And so no Charlotte Kool in this group at the moment. There's confirmation of your group. So Elisa Balsamo, Lucinda Brand, Lorena Wiebes, Alice Barnes, Shari Bossout, Micah van der Down. They're saying in there, Julie De Villa, Christina Schweinberger, Pfeiffer Georgie, Megan Jastrab, and Amelie Deirdrickson. They're saying is the makeup of our group. I don't make a Lucinda Brand in there at the moment.
No, I don't. So you'd say the real winners here are the Canyon SRAM team with Shari Bossite and Micah Vanderdown, with two of their best sprinters that have made this group. And the fact that they've got numbers over the rest of this group as well. Yes, Team DSM also have two riders with Pfeiffer Georgie and Megan Jastrab, but not the fastest in this group, although Pfeiffer Georgie's been hugely impressive in the last couple of seasons, not only as a domestique but also as an individual rider. We saw that in her third place that she held on to after leading Charlotte Kool out in a stage of the UAE Tour.
Let's have a look from the helicopter back to our next group on the road. So a fairly sizable group. 16 seconds is our gap with 54.1 kilometers to go. Megan Jastrab, though, for Team DSM, and Jastrab started to sort of tour of Scandinavia last year as the point where DSM started to give the American that run out as well. And former world junior road race champion as well, Megan Jastrab. So, yeah, as you said, you know, coming into the finish, if they're all riding full gas as they are, you wouldn't discount Megan Jastrab in a kick from this group.
No, you wouldn't. But again, it's about communication with Pfeiffer Georgie, with the team, as to who's got the best and who's got most energy left in the tank. Ultimately, who's got that capacity to be able to sprint. There's still, 53.6 kilometers to go, and if they want this to stay away, there's going to be a huge amount of work that's needed from all of these riders to, commit to this staying away. So it's not necessarily about who's fastest from A to B. It's about who's got the most left in the tank at the end of this race. So it'll be interesting to see how this group and dynamic changes as we head towards the Panne, back out through our last lap with 48 kilometers to go. But for now, they've done a really great job in this group forming. They've really committed to this move. After the echelon has formed, they've really committed until that wind change in direction. We'll take stock of who is in this group in the next couple of kilometers, and if this group just behind comes back to the front group. 18 seconds now, the gap.
So the camera pans back. We'll see who's chasing on the front. So it's UAE ADQ. They're the team that have missed out on this front group. So Pfeiffer Georgie, Megan Jastrab from Team DSM, Christina Schweinberger and Julie De Wilde from Phoenix de Koenig, Alice Barnes from Human Powered Health, Amelie Deirdrickson from Uno X, Elisa Balsamo from Trek Segafredo, Lorena Vibis from Team SD Works, Shari Bossau and Micah Vanderdown are the two riders from the Canyon SRAM team. 17 seconds to Group 2, 1:10 to Group 3. There's the second group just in the background there, trying to bring, you would expect, Chiara Consoni back into a race-winning position. We will go through the line to start our final lap of the race with 47.9 kilometers to go. And the Sprinters Classic, we call it, the World Champs of Sprinters. But the men's race yesterday, they had the rain to contend with as well. It blew to absolute bits yesterday, did this race. And the classic Brugge to Panne is doing the same again today. Good to see Lorena Vibis, though, vigilant and up towards the front. And she did impressive riding, Alfredo Binda, to hang on for as long as she did in Italy.
Yeah, it was really, really impressive. And I heard in a post-race interview after Het Nieuwsblad that she's been working on her ability as an all-rounder, which I was slightly concerned about if it had a kind of a detrimental effect to her pure sprinting ability. But it does open up more opportunity, and it was a phenomenal ride.
10 riders in our leading group, so we're getting confirmation. As you can see, plenty of teams, plenty of nations represented in our front group. Shari Bosshout here, the Belgian rider, as I said, it comes into this great form. Won the team's got a win for the team in the Tour of Normandy. Won a bunch sprint in that. The Belgian rider, her teammate Maaike van der Down. I think both of these riders have. I think they're both really benefiting and enjoying given the sort of riders they are from having Magnus Backstedt in the team car behind.
For sure, he comes with such a wealth of experience, especially in races like this. I believe he lived in Belgium for many, many years, so knows exactly how to ride these sorts of roads. Obviously, with two daughters being in the World Tour peloton with Eleanor and Zoe Backstedt, knows female bike racing like the back of his hand as well. We don't like to compare men's and women's racing, and it is generally very, very different. So for Magnus, he's got the best of two halves, having the experience on the road himself, but also knowing female bike racing, being a huge fan and being such an expert in the field as well. And obviously having Danny Christmas alongside him, who's not been out of the peloton too long herself, and obviously is our works with us on the commentary side of things, and so experienced in female bike racing. So they've done a fantastic job to have these two riders present in this front group. You can see all riders working together now. It's actually generally easier to roll through, especially in an echelon formation. We have seen a change in direction now, but if you're that kind of sweeper on the back of a group, you're having to make those small micro efforts, accelerations all the time to let riders in. So actually just to tap through and keep that consistent power is generally better for that energy, trying to hold on to as much energy as possible with still such a long time to go. Over an hour of racing still left for these women. I think these groups will come back together. You can see a couple of seconds just being taken off this gap between the two groups. You can see with that helicopter shot the distance between the two groups now. So that second group has got the carrot to chase. The wind isn't in the favour of that front group now. As we come towards the finish line, the riders will have a bell lap. You can see the famous train tracks as we come towards the finish line of De Panne.
So some riders in this group have switched teams this year. Alice Barnes, you can see him there for the Human Powered Health team, wearing 31. And it just gives you that fresh motivation when you're in a new team. So coming through the line for the bell lap this time, your leading group, defending champion Elisa Balsamo comes through. Welcome back if you're rejoining us on the TVR breakaway group here in the classic Brugge de Panne. Just going through the line, and a really select leading group. What they are, 30 seconds now is the gap back to the chasing group. UAE ADQ are the team that really have missed out on this one. Plenty of teams that are represented in this front group that would go all in on the riders that have made the split. They get the bell this time, 1 lap to go. So Alice Barnes, the British rider here on the front in the orange colours of the Human Powered Health. So in the black and blue colours of Team DSM, you have Pfeiffer Georgie. And from the USA, Megan Jastrab, our chasing group just going through, and you can see it is UAE ADQ. There's Consoni sitting fourth wheel there for the UAE ADQ team. The gap is going to be a lot for them to close. You look around the makeup of this chasing group, Danny, and it's all teammates of those riders that are ahead. So it's all down to UAE ADQ here at the moment.
It is. It seems that the other teams are happy with this composition of riders. So actually, even though I said I thought it would come back together, potentially not now. Although we are seeing changes of our graphics with the time gap of these two groups. Now we know that the best chance of getting this group back will be into the headwind section, where the workload can be shared more evenly. We know a breakaway is more conducive into a tailwind, which is what we're seeing into the finale of this race. But obviously we have got a couple of key crosswind section as well, where there could be a few teams that want to try and do some damage. However, with only 2 riders as a maximum of teammates within this front group, I think we'll just see this this group trying to stay away as we come closer into the finish, then maybe differing in tactics and not wanting to go to the line with the likes of Lorena Wiebes.
So the third group on the road go through and get the bell. This time there's Emilia Farlin, you can see, for FDJ, with those Swedish flags around the cuffs of her jersey. So a fairly sizable group. Elena Backstead also in that group there as well. So heading past the port, back to our leading group. Bossau and Van der Down here. 17 seconds and 1:18 are your 2 gaps here. So it's still controllable for that group behind. So for UAE ADQ, it's one of those, this is one of those courses and one of those races when we think back to how Grace Brown won this race, and even at 17 seconds, it's the sort of gap that can just sit there. One of those sort of agonizing gaps where you think you're going to get it back, and it just, given the firepower and the talent in this front group, it can just stay out there.
Yeah, it can, especially if you've only got one team chasing and you've got that cohesion between this, this group and composition at the front. We've got some real key sprinters in this move. Alice Barnes just at the back of this group now for Human Powered Health. I'd love to see Alice Barnes pick up a result today. Schweinberger, Lorena Wiebes, Balsamo. So, it's only really Team UAE who have really, really missed out on this, with Chiara Consoni and Marta Bastianelli being their 2 leaders for today. You can see SD Works clearly happy with this composition, with Lonika Uniken sitting at the back of this this small bunch now, and it's only Team UAE pulling, so we could see the agonising gap remain for the rest of this race. I think it'll be interesting to see what Pfeiffer Georgie and Megan Jastrab do towards the end of this one. Also the likes of Julie De Wilde and Christina Schweinberger, who arguably haven't been head to head against Lorena Wiebes and Enya Balsamo, and even for the likes of Alice Barnes potentially, will she leave it right until the final sprint? What is her best tactic or best chance of winning this race?
Pfeiffer Georgie comes through to the front for DSM. I mean, Pfeiffer in Umlaut Het Nieuwsblad as well. There's there's a classics rider from DSM. Was the only rider able to stay with Lotte Kopecky when she went on the Muur.
She's so strong, and I actually remember, I think it was at the World Championships only a few years ago, where I think it's her first World Championships is in the elite category, and Lizzie Deignan said she was one of the best domestics she'd ever had working for her, because she just was always in the right place at the right time and clearly had the strength to be there and to be able to stay there. And we saw that in the consistency of her results last year, but also how selfless she is as a bike rider. And I hope she gets her own chances in maybe not this year, but maybe in next year. Specifically, we did see her take 3rd place in that 2nd stage of the UAE Tour, but ultimately she was leading Charlotte Coolout and found herself in a fantastic position to be able to keep going to the line. And like you said, Het Nieuwsblad 5th. What an absolutely outstanding result for Pfeiffer Georgie at still such a young age. She's only 22 years of age. She's still got so much developing to do as an athlete. So this will give her a huge amount of confidence, and also the team. She's signed with the team till 2025, and I'm absolutely not surprised as to why this team want to snap the British rider up for a good number of years, because she's absolutely instrumental in the team's performances, and I think she'll be one of the best riders in the next couple of years.
Indeed. If you're just joining us, Elisa Balsamo, defending champion in this Italian national champions jersey, the tricolore jersey with the rainbow bands on the cuffs of her jersey. Amelie Deirdrickson, another former world champion in the red and blue colours. You can see a little bit further down the group there for Team Uno X. This is the classic Brugge de Panne. So it started in 2018 for the women, did Brugge de Panne. We used to have the 3 days of de Panne. It was a famous stage race in the men's calendar, early season race, now down to a single day classic. Last year, Elisa Balsamo took it from Lorena Vivas, with Marta Bastianelli getting onto the podium in third, Lonica Unica, Maria Martins, Emma Norsgaard, Chiara Consoni, Alice Barnes, Lotte Kopecky, and Clara Caponi was your top 10 when we were here a year ago. But a very select leading group, you would say. So coming into it, if it was a big bunch sprint, free race favourites were the likes of Lorena Vivas and Elisa Balsamo. Charlotte Kuhl from Team DSM, another pre-race favourite, but her two teammates, Pfeiffer Georgie and Megan Jastrab, have made it into this group. The young Belgian, Shari Bossout, is a real emerging talent for that Canyon SRAM team. Great track rider as well is Shari. World Madison champion with Lotte Kopecky. And making it into this group with teammate Micah van der Down. And it's good to see as well Micah getting her opportunity at World Tour level as well. She comes into this new signing this year with Canyon SRAM, was with the Lecole Wahoo, and drops Lecole for the previous 2 years. And you can see it's great when you see a rider like Micah who just comes in and just goes all in to try and prove herself straight away.
Yeah, it's brilliant, and you can see a real step up from Micah van der Down this year. Again, 21 years of age, just still so young. But I think Lecole Wahoo, that was a great team for Micah. I think she really got to learn how to ride as a leader. It was the women's tour that she really stood out for me, where she was picking up the intermediate sprints and showing how strong she was there. Even without a super strong team leading her into them, she really knew how to surf off the wheels of other teams, and you see that a lot in the way that riders are racing and like to race. You can see now it looks like Consoni here trying to bridge across solo for Team UAE, so trying their hand at a different tactic to try and have a last-ditch attempt of getting back into contention to pick up a result in today's race. But for Micah van der Down, I think it was a really good sign-in for Canyon SRAM and for herself as an individual, and you can see already after only 2 race days, picking up that third in Drenthe is only going to take her from strength to strength in terms of her confidence and the team's confidence moving forward.
41.5 kilometres to go. 38 seconds is your time gap from your leading group. Lorena Vivas in that World Tour leaders jersey with the blue helmet has made it into this front group, and what a group it is. So Pfeiffer Georgie from Great Britain, Megan Jastrab from the USA, both from Team DSM, Christina Schweinberger, national champion of Austria with her Belgian teammate Julie de Wilde, Alice Barnes from Great Britain and Human Powered Health, Amelie Deirdrickson from Denmark and Uno X by Elisa Balsamo from Trek Segafredo, and then Shari Bossout and Micah van der Down. And they really are working well together on this leading group. Very vigilant at the front in Balsamo and Weavis making it into this group. And I think that's what makes them so interesting as riders, Elisa Balsamo and Lorena Weavis, in terms of two of the biggest names in the sport. And not, they so up there when this split, not just sitting back and expecting it to just come down to a big bunch sprint.
No, and they're so versatile as bike riders, and we saw that, only at the weekend in Binder, where it was a small group and they were both there for the majority of the time. Yes, Lorena Vivas did get distance towards the end, but she still took home a top 20 result, which in a hilly classic type race, you would say, is so impressive. And it just shows that they're capable of being able to do it all, not just go head to head when it comes to putting out 12, 13, 1400 watts plus, which I'm sure they both are capable of doing. I think a lot of it as well comes down to how confident they are mentally. Is Chiara Consoni now trying to go across solo for Team UAE. They've got no fear. They're willing to get their elbows out in that position. They've got the physical strength, the mental strength to be able to be present when it really matters. And you've got a bit of a special psychology to be a sprinter, you know, putting yourself in that position, because it's pretty scary, you know. It's being in a bunch sprint of over 150 riders fighting for position at speeds of 50, 60, 70 kilometers an hour. So yeah, they're both super impressive.
So Chiara Consoni for UAE ADQ's decided that it's time to go alone to try and make it up to this leading group. But our rider leading the World Tour, previous winner of this race, is Lorena Vives. We caught up with her earlier on today.
Lorena, how are you after the Trofeo Alfredo Binda? How did you recover?
Yeah, I'm feeling good. Trofeo Binda was a really nice experience, and I hope to get stronger from it. And yeah, looking forward to the echelons today.
Do you want to fight for this kind of race like Trofeo Binda in the future?
Yeah, I want to develop me every year, and I think this year was already a nice step. It was my first Trofeo Binda at the elite category, and I know I can still make some steps, but we will see in the future.
So you said no, we are in Brugge de Panne. You are a former winner and the big favorite here. Do you feel that?
Yeah, it's one of my goals this season to win this race, and I actually like the weather conditions, the wind. And yeah, but you need to be in the first echelon to win this race, so we will do everything for that.
And you are only 4 riders here. It's changed the plan a little bit now.
Well, I think we still have a really strong team, and I'm not too worried about it. The girls knows how to position in the peloton, so I think we will be fine.
But you saw the men's race yesterday. Maybe you will have to fight alone today.
Yeah, I saw the men's race. It was really hard, but I saw also how strong Philipsen was at race, and I think it shows that as a sprinter you can also put some effort in the race and still be good at the end.
Thank you.
Great insight there from Lorena Vives. Don't worry about our rider who was on the bike path and went down there. They have picked themselves up. I'm sure the GCN social team and YouTube team will be clipping that one out. So if you want to become a YouTube sensation, ride yourself along the side of the peloton and fall off, which our gentleman did there. So that'll be 1 million hits on YouTube for the GCN team, I'm sure. Not that they're, you know, in anyone's misfortune, but if you're going to try and stay with the peloton and you come down, he is back up though. So man down, but he is back up, in case you were worried there. As Lorena Vives said in her interview there, Danny, that, you know, as a sprinter, you've got to be prepared to put yourself out there as she is in this leading group here.
Yeah, you do. And ultimately, as a coach now, you know, for riders, you have to train to the demands of a race. And she said in that interview that this has been one of her big goals. So she would have trained at high intensity for this duration of time. So I think she's not scared coming into this race to be able to put herself forward, to be able to work in a group like this, because ultimately she is the favourite in this group. She is the fastest finisher. And, you know, it's in her best interests to keep this group going. Yes, she is isolated, but so is her biggest rival in Elisa Balsamo. So actually, I think she'll have the confidence that, you know, she wants this group to stay away. She doesn't want teams, you know, like UAE coming back or Trek Segafredo having numbers for Elisa Balsamo. Team DSM, we don't know currently where Charlotte Kool is, although is that Charlotte Kool? No, that was Megan Jastrab in that second group, in the first group, sorry. But is Charlotte Kool in that second group? I've yet to see Charlotte Kool. So again, she wants to be able to work. She's got the confidence to work. She's been working on her all-round ability, which means she would have been looking at, you know, her capacity as a bike rider, be able to sustain longer efforts, longer durations, and that's only going to be a positive in this scenario that she's found herself in. She's in that first echelon. She's made this split. So even if it was to come back together, which right now I don't think it will, she still have the confidence that she's made this group, and she's been able to, you know, have the easiest ride so far.
Amelie Deirdrickson coming through, former junior and elite world road race champion. The rider that's right on her wheel now as we go back to Chiara Consoni, not going to make it across there solo. There's the chasing group. But again, you know, hats off to Chiara to, you know, they weren't making inroads with UAE ADQ to that front group. 58 seconds and 1:10 respectively are your gaps between the two groups. When you look at the makeup of this leading group that we've got, and we talk about the class of 2019 in terms of your Shirin van Anrooijs and those sort of riders, but in that leading group, Megan Jastrab, who was the world champion, world junior road race champion in 2019, Julie de Wilde, of course, taking silver in that race. We had Laika Nguyen, Igor Goriva, then Eleanor Backstead in 5th, Naomi Rook in 6th, Blanca Vass in 7th, Leah Carigné, Sylvia Matheson and Magdalena Valieras. That was your top 10 if you look at around the peloton now, and especially just the makeup of this front group.
Yeah, it's fantastic, and I think also what it shows is there's that kind of development pathway from junior to women's elite world tour, where the riders can, you know, step into world tour teams, be looked after, and they're looked after in terms of sort of their coach and also development into the World Tour peloton and racing. You've only got to name the top 10 of the Harrogate World Championships, which is what you were mentioning, where Megan Jastrab took that victory in I think it was a group of 7 riders that came into the finish, and it was a slightly uphill, long, straight, you know, finish. It was a really tough finish back in Harrogate, and she came out victorious there. But it's just so good to see these riders now battling it out only a few years later with the elite women, and it just shows the crop of riders that we've got coming through.
Our leading group, 1:22, 35.4 kilometres to go. This breakaway, it looks like you're going to go all the way to the finish together. And for someone like Amelie, did you see Micah van der Down and Shari Boss out there just having a bit of a word on the back? We would potentially expect maybe, I think, Micah go long and let Shari surf the sprint here if you were tactically looking at the two of them.
Oh, I think it's a really hard call. You know, you've got these two teams now chatting together, the two teams with 2 riders in this front group as to their best chances on the road. I mean, they're really fast finishers, but can they go head-to-head with the likes of Lorena Wiebes and Elisa Balsamo? I don't think so. It's a pretty technical finish. They've got that corner with around 500-600 metres to go. It is mostly tailwind, but it is pretty sheltered, so it's going to be about who's got the most left in the tank. Will they leave it till the last minute? I don't think so. I think we're going to see riders trying something towards the end of this bike race. But I think for now they need to try and stay calm, save as much energy as possible. We are heading to De Muren again, so they are going to hit those crosswind sections. We saw in the men's race it split up again in that last lap. We had a group of around 25 and we saw 4 go clear. So I think we could see potentially a similar scenario here with these riders that don't want to take Wiebes and Balsamo to the line.
So Jaco Alula, they don't have a rider up there. UAE trying to get things organised here. Phoenix de Koenig, they're happy. They've got 2 riders in that leading group, and you can see they're just UAE ADQ just trying to get things organised here. You can see Marta Bastianelli just having a glance over the top. Consoni tried to get clear, tried to get up to that leading group. Minute and 30 seconds, though, is the gap from our leading group back to the chasers. So our leaders, Christina Schweinberger here of Phoenix de Koenig. De Wilde, you would say potentially De Wilde. Another rider that's perhaps a bit of an unknown quantity as well. She's just steadily picking off those results. The rider on the back in the blue colours, fast finisher as well. Amelie Deirdrickson in the red and yellow colours here of Uno X in a Scandinavian team. It was a big move for Amelie Deirdrickson this winter to move from Trek Segafredo, being a Danish rider going into a Scandinavian team. It was a big deal for her, and again, just jumping from the track back onto the road, and she took that Madison in Jakarta in the Track Nations Cup, straight back from Cairo, where she was silver and bronze medalist there. Shari Bossart, though, on the front. So the group, Maike van der Down in that young riders jersey for the World Tour. 1:20 there being shown is the time gap from our leader. So you've got your World Tour leader and your best young rider in that leading group. So the going into today, so Lorena Wiebes at the top with 8:72. Maike van der Down leading in the best young riders classification. So the points and the way it's distributed. So 10 points so far this season for the rider in that blue jersey in the best young riders classification, and Lorena Wiebes with 872 points. So the best young riders classification, the way the points are distributed is a little bit different to the main World Tour. If you haven't been with us throughout the season, we kicked off in January with the Tour Down Under. Grace Brown taking the first World Tour race of the year, the stage race in the Tour Down Under, taking that from Amanda Spratt and Georgia Williams. We then moved on to the Cadel Evans Great Ocean Road Race at Los Adagast from Amanda Spratt and Nina Bausman was your order down there in the Cadel Evans Great Ocean Race. We then went on to the UAE Tour with Elisa Longa Borghini taking that ahead of teammate Gaia Realini and Silvia Persico. Up to Umloop Het Nieuwsblad, where Lotte Kopecky took the win ahead of Lorena Wiebes and Marta Bastianelli. On to Strade Bianche. What a day out we had there. Demi Vollering from Lotte Kopecky and Cecily Uttrup Ludwig. The Ronde van Drenthe, it was Lorena Wiebes, took the win there ahead of Suzanne Anderson and Maike van der Down. And then Trofeo Alfredo Binder at the weekend. It was Shirin van Anrooy, Elisa Balsamo and Vitaria Guazzini. 10 riders in our leading group. And so Pfeiffer Georgie and Megan Jastrab from Team DSM, Christina Schweinberger and Julie de Wilde from the Phoenix de Koenig team. Pfeiffer Georgie just back to the team car here just to have a bit of a chat. Just trying to figure out what to do here, because you've got the two fast finishers in Wiebes and Balsamo. Will Pfeiffer Georgie decide potentially? Will someone take a leaf out of the tactics book of Grace Brown, who won this race solo, and try and go clear on the run-in towards the finish? Amelie Deirdrickson from Uno X, Lorena Wiebes from SDUX, Shari Bossart and Maike van der Down. That is the makeup of your group. And Pfeiffer, you potentially expect just to have a little bit of a chat with teammate Megan Jastrab there. So good to see the young American getting into this group. Minute and 35 is your gap. So looking good now for this group. And getting split in the crosswinds. The hammer went down. The group fractured. It did look for a time like the chasing group behind would have enough to get themselves back in to the mix, but that gap just holding fast under the pressure of this group. There has been no one you could see has missed a beat in this group so far since they went clear. All fully committed, all fully determined to take this breakaway group to the finish. For Lorena Wiebes, there's the opportunity to take this race again. She took it in 2020 and add to that World Tour lead. For Maike van der Down, doing a great job here in terms of defending that best young riders classification. So the Phoenix de Koenig team. Good to see the Austrian national champion up here and in this leading group. 26 years old now is Christina Schweinberger. So Austrian road race and time trial champion. Also took a stage of the Grazia Orlova stage race last year as well. came through the Dolcini Van Eyck team into Plantapura as it was last year, and has a contract with Phoenix de Koning till 2025. And you can see another rider very much benefiting from the backup from the Roodhoff brothers setup. So our finishing circuits here in the classic Brugge de Panne. So if you're 47.9 kilometers our finishing loops, so 2 laps of this finishing circuit starting in the classic the marketplace in Brugge earlier on today. First passage of the line came with 95.9 kilometers to go. We still have the Muren, that famous crosswind section, still to come, and they really have made the most of that section of the course in terms of splitting this race today. So into Werner here. This is the point on the course, and then De Muren comes with roughly, as we hit in looking at the roadbook, 11.8 kilometers to go. So we hit that crosswind section, minute and 40. So this group going all the way out. So Danny, when we get through the section De Muren, if you're looking around the makeup of this group, who do you feel? We know Balsamo and Wiebes will be quite happy to take this one down to a sprint. I'd say someone like a Pfeiffer Georgie could potentially win this one on her own if she tries to take that sort of opportunistic move and then just let Megan Jastrab freelance off Balsamo and Wiebes. But we know Pfeiffer as well has that sort of power. If she did get caught late on, she'd still have something left for a lead out for Megan Jastrab as well.
Yeah, she would, and I think that's how Team DSM are going to play it, especially having the numbers. I think, you know, they'll get through De Muren and then assess the situation where they're at, and then try something with Pfeiffer, force the other teams to chase. And it only takes that little bit of lapse of concentration, that gap to develop, for a rider like Pfeiffer to go all the way to the line. So I think that's what they were discussing only moments ago, where we saw them you know, going back to the team car, talking to their team director sportif. They've had a chat between themselves. They need to stay attentive, they need to stay focused, but ultimately to take Balsamo and Wiebes to the line is you know, this is not their best chance of winning. Ultimately, these are the 2 fastest riders, you know, without Cool in this group, coming to the finish, and 1 minute and 43 seconds. So to me, this is totally done. This is the group where we're going to see the winner come out of. So for the likes of Pfeiffer and Megan Jastrab, they've got to try something, having the numbers. It'll be interesting to see what Canyon SRAM do with Shari Bossite and Micah Vanderdown, because they are fast finishers. But again, comparing them to the likes of Balsamo and Wiebes, you'd say that they're looking at a podium spot at best if they don't try something as well. So I think we're going to see a lot more action. I think it's great that we've got Lorena and Elisa Balsamo present in this group, because I think it just shakes things up, and I think it means that, you know, we're ultimately not going to just see this group ride to the finish.
What if you're, because Amelie Deirdrickson as well in the yellow and red here for Uno X was as well always one of our sort of, if we're talking sort of generationally now in the women's pro peloton, Amelie Deirdrickson was always, you'd come into a race and you'd put her up there as a favourite for a bunch sprint. But the sport has changed and evolved and is moving forward so quickly with the talent that's coming in, that, you know, riders like Amelie Deirdrickson, you're kind of they're having to really shift how they ride, how they train, how they prepare, and they're having to do it really, really quickly. And it's having sometimes that confidence to really try new things. The same you could say as well with someone like Alice Barnes.
I know, and it's mad, isn't it, that we're talking about different, you know, tactics, different scenarios playing out when you've got such incredible sprinters in this group. But actually, because of the likes of Balsamo and Wiebes, to repeat myself, they potentially going to have to try something as well, even though they are some of the fastest bike riders in the world. And that's what's been so fantastic to see within the women's peloton, that you're seeing riders sort of become more of into these roles as individuals. Before, it was about being that kind of all-rounder, that fast finisher to be able to finish off a bike race. But now you're seeing your pure climbers getting your opportunities, your more pure sprinters, your all-rounders. And I'd say a rider like Amelie Didrikson is more of an all-rounder. She is trying to combine both the track and the road. So again, that changes the dynamic slightly of her training, of the capacity of what what her goals are for the season. We know Lorena Wiebes, this is one of her goals, and she's already won 3 races already this year, Balsamo 2. So again, in this sort of finish, a pan flat finish, it is tailwind finish, so it means that the riders can potentially go longer, but it means that they have got to think about other tactics to beat these riders.
Julie de Wilde, just hand up there. Has she got an issue? So hand up. She went over the top of the middle of the roundabout there. Shari Bossart there for Canyon SRAM, teammate of Micah van der Down. Julie de Wilde, she's got her gilet rolled up here. She might want to get rid of that before the rest of this breakaway really kind of hots up here. I think it's important as well for Belgian cycling to have the Julie de Wildes and the Shari Bossarts up there as well. I was just looking for the team guy. I think it's really important, given the profile of women's cycling in Belgium now with Lotte Kopecky, and we look back to that Ronde van Vlaanderen last year where Lotte Kopecky crossed the line and all the beers just went up in the air with the huge crowd at the finish. But I think it's really important for the sport and the development of the sport to have a Julie de Wilde and Shari Bossart also coming through. Yeah, for sure. And we've seen a huge step forward from the female Belgian cycling federation. We've seen a lot more funding going into the teams federation on both the track and the road. We've seen obviously the AG Insurance Soudal Quick Step team go from strength to strength, going from a development now to one of the best teams in the world, bringing in the likes of Ashmore Passio, Romy Kaspar's experience. And having such, Belgian superstars coming through. And like you said, Marty, it's good to have multiple riders battling it out at the top. And I think that's what then drives the riders as individuals to keep pushing forward. I know on the British cycling team, for example, you're never becoming complacent within the federation because you've got the world's best pushing you on. And I think that's what you're seeing on the Belgian side of things with the women coming through now. They're not becoming complacent. They're not sitting back. They've had the likes of Jolien Dora. Now they've got your Lotte Kopeckys, and now there's a huge amount of riders coming through from Belgium. So it's really great to see. I think from looking around that leading group as well, it's if you look at fresh motivation and you look at career development in Alice Barnes and Amelie Didrikson, moving on from teams that they, for Alice Barnes went from Drops to Canyon SRAM and was with them for so long, and now moving on to Human Powered Health and just that fresh motivation to get back out there and start to take their career to the next step. Yeah, and I hope we see that from Alice Barnes. We haven't seen a huge amount in the last couple of years, but the fact that she's present in this front group says a lot to me about her form, about her motivation, about how happy she is in the team, that she's there. They had a really good start, the opening campaign in Australia. With Daria Pikulik taking the first stage there, and that always helps when you're at home watching and your team has success. You want to be within the team, you want to be the one picking up that success for the team. So this is a great ride from Alice Barnes, and I think again she's one of those riders that needs that big victory to
give her that confidence moving forward. She's got the capacity to be able to be there. I remember training with Alice Barnes, and she's one of the hardest trainers out there. She really does leave no stone unturned. She lives up north in the UK, so she battles with the wind, the rain, the cold temperatures, you know, on a weekly basis, and it takes a lot of motivation to be able to do that. A lot of riders now basing themselves in Girona and sunnier climates, but Alice Barnes is one of the British riders that's decided to kind of stay put in the UK, which means, you know, either having to do really long turbo sessions, which are so grueling and psychologically so hard to do, or you absolutely get yourself out there, which we know she's not afraid to do, coming from, you know, more of a mountain bike background. Actually go into the peaks and just get it done. So I'd love to see Alice Barnes pick up a good result today. She is a super fast finisher. She's very savvy as a bike rider, so now she's in this group, I think she'll know exactly what to do. Has she got the energy in the back end of this race? You know, all of these riders now sharing the workload, so who's got the capacity at the end of the race, who's got the legs at the end of the race, that fatigue resistance that we talk about now. It's not about, again, being the fastest from A to B, it's about being the fastest at the end of 3, 4, 5 hours of racing, and a lot of hard work. And that's why, again, these riders will be going out doing back-to-back days to you know, doing efforts when they're tired, not just sprinting when they're fresh, but sprinting throughout a ride, motor pacing, sprinting off the back of a motorbike as well, stringing back-to-back days together to build up that fatigue resistance, so that when it comes to a race, their body knows exactly what it's doing and they can still perform when it's highly fatigued.
And Elisa Balsamo, who's in this leading group, started the season on the track, took a silver in the European team pursuit, took a bronze in the Madison. It was a great Madison as well. I was down there for that one, and Katie Archibald and Eleanor Barker took it. Victor Alberto and Clara Caponi taking the silver, but then went straight onto the road, took 2 stages down in Valenciana into the classics. But I think it's watching the last few races, so Drenthe, Nokere course, where she was 4th, came back, got Shirin van Anrooy showed the form she had ahead of Alfredo Binda with a monster turn to get Balsamo back into position and into the mix. And then Trofeo Alfredo Binda at the weekend, which is not a flat race at all, and she's won that in her career as well. And I think, as well as a classics rider, I think Elisa Balsamo is lining up. You've got to look at, you know, Tour of Flanders, those sort of races coming up, where you've got to sort of put her name into the hat for our other classics to come.
Yeah, I totally agree, but it wouldn't have come as a huge surprise for Elisa Balsamo or for the team or the Italian Federation, because all of these performances would be ultimately planned at the back end of the previous season. You know, for riders, they'll sit down with their personal coaches that may or may not come from their teams. Some teams say it's compulsory to have a coach from the team, but others give you that flexibility to be able to work with a coach that you might know slightly more personally. They'll sit down, they'll review the season in hand, what went well, what didn't, what they feel they can improve going forward. They will have a break after the season, generally start the winter training block with a huge amount of motivation, thinking about what is their potential for the next season. And then starting the season, we're still, you know, relatively new. You know, Lucinda Brand, for example, this is her first road race, so we're still talking about these riders with slight unknown of form coming into these races. But for Elisa Balsamo now, I think she'll be really, really happy with the form that she's got. Lorena Wiebes saying this is one of her goals. So all of their training has been, you know, it hasn't just been plucked out of the air in terms of what they're doing, but it's been very meticulously planned. Their rest periods as well. So for some of these riders, they'll have breaks planned within the season to make sure they get the recovery that their bodies need. Ultimately, again, going back to the number of race days, we've got about 20 extra race days this year, and potentially not the capacity of numbers within the team. So it might mean that some of these riders could potentially be over raced. But it's meticulously planned, Marty. So these riders will know what they want to be peaking for. Some races will be purely for training, where they'll have maybe more of a domestique role. But it just shows, again, the professionalism of women's cycling and the real step up that we've got in the women's peloton.
Inside 20 kilometres to go here in Classic of Brugge de Panne, and your breakaway group. You're just joining us, made up of Pfeiffer Georgie and Megan Jastrab of Team DSM in your black and blue colours. There's your 20k to go marker. Christine Schweinberger and Julie de Wilde, who are from Phoenix de Koenig. Berger in that white jersey with the red stripes, Austrian national champion. Alice Barnes in the orange and purple colours of Human Powered Health. Amelie Deirdrickson in the red and yellow of Team Uno X. Elisa Balsamo from Trek Segafredo. She is in her Tricolore Italian national champions jersey on that famous Ferrari red bike, as they're calling it. Lorena Vibis from SD Works is wearing your World Tour leaders jersey, that maroon coloured jersey. And then Shari Bossart and Micah van der Dam from Canyon SRAM, with Micah van der Dam wearing the light blue jersey as the best young rider, or the leader of the youth classification in the Women's World Tour for this season. Brugge de Panne today, Ghent-Wevelgem on Sunday, and then Tour of Flanders a week on Sunday on 2nd of April. Those are some of the classics to come. Schelde Prize on the 5th of April, 8th of April, Paris-Roubaix, Brabant Pil on the 12th, Amstel Gold on the 16th, 19th of April, Flèche Wallonne, and then Liège-Bastogne-Liège on the 23rd of April. So lots of racing to come. Where is Brugge de Panne going today? Can anyone outwit the likes of Elisa Balsamo and Lorena Vibis? And the big question, though, Danny, the crosswinds, the distance that they've had, you know, all of these riders, it can't, you know, we talk about sometimes with the distance and the climbs being a bit of a leveler, but the distance, the speed, and the crosswinds can sometimes be a bit of a leveler. So it's not a dead cert, you know. Form and history tells us that you'd throw it all in, you know, you'd bet your house on Lorena Vibis or Elisa Balsamo taking this one. But, you know, so the distance, and as we said, we've got some real emerging talent in this group.
We have, and, you know, it's been a pretty hectic race, a pretty nervous race, a pretty aggressive race. You know, pretty hard conditions. No, they haven't had much rain on today's course, but they've had that win. They've had the fight in the echelons, in the crosswind. So it's definitely, you know, not a done deal that we're going to see Vibis and Balsamo, you know, go over the line 1-2. My prediction is that in around 4 kilometers time, when we hit the Muren again, we're going to see some firework action as these riders try and do everything they can to put Balsamo and Vibis under pressure here. That's what I'd be doing if I was a Team DS, especially from the teams that have got 2 riders present here in Team DSM and Canyon SRAM specifically, because they have got you know, riders to play with and riders to still be with the likes of Balsamo and Vibis and force them to potentially have to chase. So yeah, we're just in that headwind section now. We will be for the next around 4 to 5 kilometers time, and then we hit that 5 kilometer section of the Muren where we have that real cross tailwind and where we saw all the action on the previous lap. So to me, that's our next best opportunity for fireworks and the action to really arise.
Lorena Vibis just out of the saddle here. I mean, you look at Lorena Vibis' career so far, and she's only 24, and she's already racked up 62 victories as a pro.
Pretty good, hey? Yeah, it's absolutely outstanding. The confidence that she oozes as well. I remember having the pleasure to commentate on the Tour de France Femmes avec Zwift last year, and I remember her going into the Champs-Élysées, and you know, it felt like she didn't even feel that pressure. She was so confident, and she had the weight of the world on her shoulders there to deliver for herself and the team. And you know, psychologically, it takes so much to be able to, you know, be expected to win on so many occasions, and for her to be able to deliver time and time again is really something special. You know, she's got to go back and, you know, get back in the gym, get back on the bike, and then again next race, if it's a flat race, okay, Lorena, you're the team leader again. The team's working for you, and not just for the effort that she puts in, for the whole of the team as well. You know, she's got a team behind her who will be emptying themselves, and for the likes of Anna Shackley, it might have been that her day was over on that first Muren section, and she set Lorena Wiebes up perfectly. So yeah, I mean, she's absolutely outstanding. I'm sure we're going to just see so much more to come from Lorena, because from my understanding from the outside, she's again a rider that's not going to become complacent, and she's always looking at which way she can improve herself as an athlete and individual.
Yeah, she's already had 3 wins so far this season as Lorena Wiebes. So 17 kilometers to go. Our winner of Classic Brugge de Panne is coming from this leading group. The question is, will it come down to a sprint, or can anyone try and get away in this? It's such an in terms of this classic, we call it the Sprinters Classic, but we've had Jolien Dura, Kirsten Wild, Lorena Wiebes, Grace Brown won it on her own in 2021, and it was the making of Grace Brown, this race, wasn't it? We saw her with the previous season when she stepped up and was away in, you know, Brabant Chapelle and Liège-Bastogne-Liège, and then when she rode clear in this one, that was when we thought, okay, this rider's something special, and I think that's what makes this race so interesting. And as well, I think what makes, when we look at races, sometimes we always look at the climbs as always being so decisive, but a race like Brugge de Panne, which has got very little elevation, and you look at the parkour and you think, right, this is coming down to a sprint. But you know, the wind and the wind and the factor that's played in this, we've still got most of our favourites beyond Charlotte Kool or Chiara Consoni who haven't made it into this leading group. But it also shows us how much a flat race and how exciting it can be made, and the riders, as we always say, the riders make the race.
Oh, for sure. And you know, you can see that today we've got such a select group in a race where, you know, we do predict a big bunch sprint, and generally we talk about the history of a race dictating, you know, the tactics. And I think in 2021, where Grace Brown, you know, took that victory, it also kind of opened the eyes to DSs and individuals, and we saw a lot of, you know, longer range attacks, riders having the confidence to make those sorts of moves, whereas before it might be that, oh well, this race comes down to a bunch sprint, so we're not really going to try anything else. And I think actually it's been Trek Segafredo for me that have looked at in which ways they can kind of change the dynamic slightly of female bike racing, to really open things up and give themselves, you know, more opportunity to be able to win races. And using the wind has been one of the ways in which they've done that. We saw that in the UAE Tour with Elisa Longo Borghini, and how present they were time and time again at the crucial moments, and they put the likes of FDJ on the back and really used that to their advantage. So it's about so much more than just elevation in a race that really makes it and can be a huge deciding factor.
Elisa Balsamo making it into this group. I think as a rider as well, when you look at Elisa Balsamo, she definitely has that sort of track rider cadence, doesn't she? She's so supple in her pedaling and always rides. You can see it sort of rides with a really smooth, very high cadence a lot of the time.
Yeah, she does. And for these riders as well, especially the riders that ride on the track, they will be in the gym. Lorena Wiebes, she puts a lot on her social media, how she, you know, she's in the gym throughout the racing season. I think it was only a few years ago where riders would look at the winter, the off season, as being, you know, the time of year to be able to put that strength and conditioning part of their program in their program. But now I think with the development of, you know, science, ultimately we know how beneficial strength and conditioning training can be, especially for female endurance athletes, and how it's beneficial to sustain a program throughout the racing season, to be able to maintain that kind of top end power, that capacity, And it also shows, like you mentioned there, in the pedaling styles of a lot of these riders now, that they're not losing power through their upper bodies. They are being able to produce all their power and put all their power through their legs and through the pedals, have that solid, that fluid pedaling action, not just pushing down on the pedals but also pulling up and using that 360-degree pedaling motion to be able to, you know, ultimately get as much through those pedals as possible. Wind tunnels, aerodynamics is another factor that these women would have been able to benefit from in the last couple of years. The teams having the ability to put the riders in wind tunnel testing, or using the velodrome actually, which a lot of the riders do now, to test equipment, to test different positions of these bike riders, to leave no stone unturned and look at these marginal gains, because this peloton, the whole peloton, have stepped up so much. It's only these tiny increments, Marty, that make such a huge difference now, you know, as we're seeing such huge step forwards.
And Elisa Balsamo talks a lot about, as other riders do, Shari Bossart, Lotte Kopecky as well, about how much jumping back to the track really helps them in terms of maintaining their power and their speed and their kick on the road. This is your chasing group, just under 3 minutes down. The likes of Lucinda Brand, Chiara Consoni in there as well, Eleonora Gasparini, Anna Trevisi, Tiff Cromwell in there as well, Obianique, Marta Troyan, Alicia Gonzalez is also in this chasing group. Christine Majeras, you can see there, the Luxembourg champion, Marta Jaskulska, Clara Caponi in there, Cedrine Cabal, Julie Leth, so lots of teammates of those riders who are at the head of the race. Julia Borgström of the AG Insurance team. Good to see the Swedish rider in there. Babette van der Wolf as well, had a bit of a tumble earlier, so good to see Babette is in this group. And UAE, they did everything that they could to try and get this race back, but Trek Segafredo and SD Works, teammates of Elisa Balsamo and Lorena Vivas, both on the front. So your winner, your champion, is it going to be a second win for Elisa Balsamo, who took it last year? Is it going to be a second win for Lorena Vivas, who took it in 2020? Or are we going to have a new name at the top of the leaderboard at the end of the classic Brugge de Panne today? What a race it has been. If you enjoyed the men's race yesterday, we have had 2 great days of racing up here in East Flanders. Where is our victory going today? Inside 10k to go is going to start to go through the minds of those riders that don't want to take Lorena Vivas and Elisa Balsamo to the finish. The time gap will be relayed in their ears. They'll know they're comfortable. We're going to start to this inside 10k to go. We're going to start to see some fireworks from this front group.
We are indeed. We've got 3 teams with 2 riders present, with Canyon, with the Fenix team, and of course Team DSM, who are now on the front. And this is where the action is going to start, and it looks like that Team DSM are taking this on here.
De Moorden just right on schedule. We were saying they're just outside, so we go in. It's Megan Jastrab and Pfeiffer Georgie that are lighting this one up here across De Moorden, the famous part of this course, the crosswind.
Crash!
Barnes goes down, and De Wilde, unfortunately, we've got 2 riders down out of our leading group here. So Alice Barnes and Julie De Wilde, unfortunately, going down, and they've gone down heavily. That's a shame. Let's see what happened here. Ooh, just touch of wheels, unfortunately. Oh, Alice Barnes and Julie De Wilde just had nowhere to go.
That was such a fast crash as well. It just like an overlapping of wheels there. It's never nice to see these images either, so really hoping that these 2 riders are okay now.
And the pressure just on here as well. We hope Julie and Alice are okay. So the emergency services straight with both of them, and just shows the pressure and the speed through this section. We've got 2 chasers just in the background there, Micah van der Down and Christine Schweinberger. Megan Jastrab, though, just launched it into De Moorden.
She did, and that was predictable from the team of Team DSM. We saw them talking earlier. They're sticking together as a unit. They're lighting this one up. These images aren't really what we want to see.
Yeah, the touch of wheels there, unfortunately, just the way the wind kicked them across, and Alice has gone down very heavily, so we do just hope they're okay. As we always say, we'll never ever speculate in these situations, and Julie de Wilde is still down, unfortunately, as is Alice Barnes. So keep an eye. The best, if you, as we always are, and if you are concerned about the riders, the best way is to follow the teams on social media, and you'll get the official statements from the teams later on today. So we wish Alice Barnes and Julie de Wilde our best here. So never what you want to see in this situation, and it just was just the way the riders just got kicked over into Demuren with that crosswind, just a touch of wheels, and they went down. And there's your two chasers, so Maaike van der Down and Christina Schweinberger. Christina Schweinberger have been tailed off this leading group, unfortunately. We are 9.4 kilometers to go to the finish. It's going to take a lot for Christina and Maaike to get back in here, given the pressure from the leading group here.
Yeah, I think that's race over, unfortunately, for Maaike van der Down and Christina Schweinberger after getting caught out in the crosswinds. And in that incident, we can see the cohesion now between these 6 riders that have made it into this front group yet again with 9 kilometers to go. So Amelie Didriksen for the Uno X team, and Team DSM, the only team now with numbers to play the game towards the end of the race.
Canyon SRAM with Shari Bossart, SD Works with Lorena Vivas, Trek Segafredo with Elisa Balsamo, Uno X with Amelie Deirdrickson, and DSM with both Pfeiffer Georgie and Megan Jastrab heading in towards De Panne now for the finish of this one. So Julie just giving a wave here. She's doing the right thing as well, just staying where she is. Hopefully Alice is okay as well.
Thankfully, all the teams will have team doctors now, so they'll be looked after by the emergency services of the race, and then followed up with team doctors that will look after them moving forward. It looked like, unfortunately, both riders took pretty heavy hits to their head, and we know how important concussion checks are now within every sport. So I'm sure they'll have the best help and being able to be looked after.
Our two chasers here are 36 seconds from Christina Schweinberger and Maaike van der Down. Dropped out of this front group. And we'll just collect ourselves for the finish after the tumble there of Julie de Wilde and Alice Barnes. Out of this leading group now, coming in towards the finish, I am thinking a late attack here from the likes of Pfeiffer Georgie. I think Shari might fancy the chances at the end of this one of a sprint. Amelie, we've not seen Amelie Deirdrickson in this position for a while.
We haven't, but we know she is fast. We know she's coming off the track. You can see an attack here now by Megan Jastrab from Team DSM. Are they going to just merely 1-2 it all the way to the line, force the other teams to chase until there is a potential gap from one of them? Will we see a counter-attack now by Pfeiffer, who's sitting behind, trying to catch them by surprise as she comes on their left-hand side now and attacks out of the saddle?
Pfeiffer Georgie takes a flyer over the top of the group. This is it. 1-2 from Megan Jastrab and Pfeiffer Georgie. Elisa Balsamo reacts, looks around. She'll see that Lorena Vivas is on the wheel. This could be the moment now for Pfeiffer Georgie. The DSM team have set this one up perfectly. Will Deirdrickson potentially now take a flyer from the back of the group? Shari Bossart comes through towards the front. Bossart's got to be careful that she doesn't just drag Balsamo and Vivas up to this front front group, looks around. Perfectly timed moment, you would say there. So 6.5 kilometers to go. 5 for Georgie, puts the hammer down for Team DSM on the front. Look at Amelie Deirdrickson, who's having to fight to stay on the wheel now of Megan Jastrab. And all the time, as they start to look around here, it plays into the hands of 5 for Georgie. Off the front is Deirdrickson now going to go, just makes it to the front. Little shake of the head now from Amelie Deirdrickson. This is the Grace Brown race tactics book here in Brugge de Panne.
It is, and this could quite easily be the race-winning move of today's ride by Team DSM. Megan Jastrab setting that one up for 5 for Georgie now as they turn into the tailwind section. We know that is more conducive to a solo breakaway rider. It then becomes quite technical, and we know that again plays into the hands of the individual attributes of 5 for Georgie, who is stunning when it comes to cornering skills. So she will take the shortest line of these roads, these twists and turns. Elisa Balsamo looking over her shoulder, seeing who's going to chase, and the impetus has really come out of this group now, Marty, giving her a huge opportunity to the DSM ride. And you could see Megan Jastrab there talking into her radio. She's giving that motivation to the British rider, to 5 for Georgie, who looks to me like she's going to ride away and take the win.
5.3 kilometers to go, 11 seconds for 5 for Georgie. So the 22-year-old British rider, she's had 3 victories in her career. GP4 Meets, the British National Road Race title, and the Under-23 title, but no World Tour road victories. It's something that has been, she's shown promise, and throughout her young career, was the only rider in Omloop Het Nieuwsblad that was able to go with Lotte Kopecky when she made her move. But the power, the form of 5 for Georgie, this is like Sharon van Anrooy in Trofeo Alfreda Binder. It is those this season, those career-defining moments for those riders that have just been on the fringes for the last couple of seasons. 14 seconds, Wiebes and Balsamo just looking around at each other out of this leading group. 4.7 kilometers to go now for 5 for Georgie. Is she going to become the second rider in the history of Brugge de Panne to take this one solo?
This is a stunning ride here by 5 for Georgie, and tactical brilliance from Team DSM there, not just with the move of Megan Jastrab, but also opening up on De Muren to start that attack, that aggressive finale that we've seen. And this is a long run in now before she'll take that last left-hand turn, and then it's a sweeping right all the way into the finish. So for 5 for Georgie now, she needs to home in on her own effort, get as aerodynamic as possible. She'll have motivation from the team behind. She's got Megan Jastrab, who can merely just disrupt the chase slightly and sit behind, waiting for it to come back together if it was to. And now it's putting Lorena Wiebes and Balsamo under pressure. They're looking at each other. They're freewheeling here, Marty. So this is really playing into the British riders' hands.
If you ever wanted a lesson in how to 1-2 a breakaway, you've just had it here from the American Megan Jastrab and Great Britain's 5 for Georgie. Jastrab now through towards the front. Shari Boss out for Canyon SRAM. 24 seconds 25 with 3.8 kilometers to go. 5 for Georgie. You could hear the engine revving as she wound up to make that move there, couldn't you, when Jastrab hit the front?
You could. It was perfect. She just laid off the back of that group. She caught them by surprise, came on the left-hand side. There was a little bit of road furniture, which again just disrupts that chase, that initial jump onto the back wheel of 5 for Georgie there. She had the gap. It meant that the riders behind were looking at each other as to who was going to chase, and she's now riding away. The wind direction was playing into her favour with a pretty much tailwind finish. She's going to turn left in a few kilometres' time, so she'll have a slight crosswind coming into the final, but it is a lot more sheltered there, and the gap is just growing ever so slightly as we come into the last 3 kilometres.
Almost 30 seconds now for 5 for Georgie. It's pushing out 3 minutes and 55 seconds is the gap to your chasers. That group behind with 2 previous winners in Lorena Wiebes and defending champion Elisa Balsamo. But look at the effort etched on the face now of 5 for Georgie. This is a ride. This is from the Team DSM rider that we've been waiting for. The team with Lorena Wiebes moving over to SD Works this season. They came into the race with a pre-race favourite in Charlotte Kool if it did come down to a group sprint. But as we go back to the chase, you can see again Megan Jastrab just roaring into that radio, you can imagine, to encourage her teammate that the pressure, the pace is out of this chasing group behind. And a perfect team role here from Megan Jastrab.
It's totally gone, that impetus behind. You know, they're freewheeling, they're looking at each other. There's still podium positions up for grabs. So it's perfect for Team DSM. Megan Jastrab will be saying to Pfeiffer Georgie, go, go, go. They're looking at each other. They're not chasing behind. So give this your all.
Pfeiffer Georgie, since she turned professional, we've seen her working for Lorena Wiebes. She is, you would say, even given her young years, has always been probably the road captain for Team DSM. She has been tactically brilliant throughout her career. I first saw her as a youth rider in my local criterium, where she rocked up and took the title and then won the senior title later on. And in that group behind, Lorena Wiebes now deciding it's the best form of defense is attack from this group at 1.7k to go, and the frustration boiling over in this chasing group because they know now that the victory is riding away, and it's in the colours of Team DSM.
It really is. Lorena Wiebes clearly getting frustrated there. She wants to try and get this group to work, but it's not going to happen now. These riders are going to start thinking about the finish for second and third place. And look at the face, the grimace of Pfeiffer Georgie here. She's given it absolutely everything she's got now. Just takes a look behind. She's going to go under the Flamme Rouge in only 300 meters time. What a huge victory for the young 22-year-old that this is going to be. And again, tactical brilliance from the whole of the team, taking her opportunity, being there. Charlotte Kool didn't make that split with just over 2 laps to go, but Pfeiffer, she really does deserve this one.
Pfeiffer Georgie, this is a moment. Turned pro in 2019 with Team Somewhere, but they have invested in this young rider throughout her career. She's had some great finishes, 5th place in this year's Umlaut Het Nieuwsblad. But for Team DSM, everyone making it in the helping to make this split. And now it is about the sprint for second and third on the podium from this group.
It really is, especially now they're in freewheeling mode, Marty, and this will also give the chances of the 2 riders behind to get back into contention. We know Micah Vanderdown and Christina Schreinberger are chasing, so again it gives them an opportunity to get back into this group for the finish.
Here you have it. We're so used to as well seeing her in the lead outs in the bunch sprints, but a classics rider she has always been. And this, like Shirin van Anrooy in the Trofeo Alfredo Binder, you would say is a career affirming moment for the 22-year-old rider from Great Britain, former national champion. A shake of the head. It is today the first World Tour victory for Pfeiffer Georgie from Team DSM. A phenomenal team ride from Megan Jastrab and Pfeiffer Georgie in that breakaway group. Takes her biggest win as a pro, and now the sprint for second and third will begin.
That was absolutely amazing, Marty. And the riders now looking at each other. Elisa Balsamo wanting Lorena Wiebes here as Amelie Didrikson leads it around this final right-hand bend.
Didrikson on the front, Jastrab, Wiebes busts out on the inside, Balsamo on the back, whereas second and third place is going Jastrab. What a ride to help launch her teammate to victory. Can she get herself onto the podium? Busts out, and Jastrab from DSM, Kanya Schramm, Wiebes in that World Tour Leaders jersey. Balsamo's got to make sure she doesn't get boxed. The experience of the former world champion in Amelie Didrikson leading out now on the front. the sprint starts. Vivas goes. Deirdreton tries to react. Vivas has got the front. Balsamo into the slipstream now of Lorena Vivas, trying to come over the top. It is going to be between Balsamo and Vivas for second and third. Throw to the line. Did Balsamo manage to take second there? It looked like she did. It looks like third spot for Lorena Vivas, but what a day, what a ride, you would say, from Team DSM. 5 for Georgie, and Megan Jastrab understandably delighted.
I made an echelon.
That was absolutely amazing. I think Megan Jastrab said, I did an echelon. Yeah, you really, really did, and you did it absolutely perfectly there. So chapeau to the two of them. That was phenomenal.
Micah van der Down leads her and Christina Schweinberger across the line. Well, what a day, and we've watched this rider throughout her career. Such a big moment, though, for Pfeiffer to take that first World Tour win.
Oh, it's massive, and success really does breed success. There's a reason why this team have signed her until the end of 2025, and she just, again, just showed how great she is as an individual and a bike rider, thanking the team through the radio. She really deserves this one, like you said, Marty. Generally a rider that, you know, works for others, is so selfless, and now she's had her opportunity, and we'll see so much more from this British rider, I'm sure.
But also, you know, we look ahead to classics to come, and we, as we said, she was the only rider able to stay with Lotte Kopecky when she went on the Mur, and I think you know, this will give her massive confidence for the classics to come.
She's such a versatile bike rider. She really can do it all. She's got a fast finish as well, so she can back herself, you know, in a small group coming to the finish, if it's not with the likes of Lorena Vivas and Balsamo. And that's why we saw them try their hand at, you know, the tactics that they used.
And here's the sprint. Lisa Balsamo did come through and take second, and you saw the frustration there for Lorena Vivas. That was quite a sprint between those two.
It was, and Balsamo was really, really calm and collected there. Lorena Vivas just going slightly too early, but a fantastic sprint in there from Balsamo.
The Panne delivers again. The flat race, the wind, really, that was great throughout that one.
It was. Who said flat races were boring? It was absolutely... It was action on from start to finish, wasn't it? And great to have so much coverage of the women's edition.
Here's 5 for Georgie.
5 for Georgie. 22 years old, and you win here this race. How does that make you feel?
Yeah, I'm so happy, actually. It's my first World Tour win. Pretty unexpected for me, actually. We came in today with a plan to race aggressively, and yeah, the whole team did that. So yeah, I was just finishing off a great team effort today, actually.
Everybody knows beforehand that it will break in the Muren, but you were there with two teammates, so that's impressive.
Yeah, everyone knows where it's going to split. We tried beforehand, before we even turned into De Moeren, just to try and thin out the bunch a bit, and so it was already hard going into that. And yeah, me and Megan made the front split, and then on the last lap we tried again to make it even smaller so we could race.
Then you look around and you see all those fast ladies. You see Balsamo, you see Wiebes. What was the plan then? Yeah,
we knew we couldn't come to the finish with any of them, actually, because they were very fast. So we just knew that we were going to attack. And yeah, Megan attacked first and set me up, and then she just blocked from behind. And yeah, I just went as hard as I could.
How hard was it to stay up front?
Yeah, my legs were feeling pretty tired at that point, so I was just giving it everything, and yeah, DS shouting in my ear really helped. Just head down all the way to the line.
So maybe now you're one of the favorites for Gent-Wevelgem, or is that too soon?
I wouldn't say I was one of the favourites. We've got Charlotte, who's a really fast sprinter, but yeah, anything can happen.
Okay, enjoy. Good luck.
5 for Georgie. Always so modest, isn't she, as well?
I know, amazing. I think she will be one of the favourites. Ultimately, you've still got to be there in Gate Wevelgem. You know, if there's a similar weather conditions, you know, a couple of the climbs that the riders got to contend with, Charlotte Kool has been ill. So it does give Pfeiffer Georgie more opportunity. And she was always there. They would race so aggressively. And because Lorena Wiebes and Balsamo were present, it meant that they had to take that opportunity to race even more aggressively to be able to play the game and race. And that's what they did perfectly today.
Some great shots around the sand dunes. Great cyclocross country it is around here. But what a great race. Your top 10 looks like this. So it's Great Britain's Pfeiffer Georgie that takes it from Elisa Balsamo and Lorena Wiebes, Megan Jastrup, Shori Bossa, Amelie Deirdrickson, 5th and 6th. 7th and 8th there for Micah van der Down and Christina Schweinberger, with Chiara Consoni taking 9th ahead of Ilaria Sanguinetti. If you're with us on the TV, you're going to leave us there. From Martin McDonald and Danny Rowe, we will see you soon. Bye for now. If you're still with us on our digital platforms, of course, you can stay with us. Some big rides out there today. As I said throughout that one, I'm impressed with the way that, you know, Elisa Balsamo and Lorena Wiebes rode this one today, getting themselves out there in that leading group.
Yeah, you have to be there, don't you, to be able to race it out, and both of them were. So I think maybe a little bit frustrating for them, but you know, great performances nonetheless.
Let's hear from Megan Jastrup.
It was not an easy day today.
No, it's not at all. We knew it was going to be a lot of echelons and really windy, so we went in with a plan of either making it hard or just going for a bunch sprint. But yeah, it was my only second time ever racing in the crosswind, so yeah, I wanted to improve on my last one because I kind of got shelled the last crosswind race. So yeah, I think we did a really good job, and we had a plan, and everyone believed in each other and put in the work. So yeah, you get the win when the team works together, so it's really nice.
You played with the wind,
yeah.
with Georgie Pfeiffer.
Yeah. So I know we both made the front split the first time through Des Moines, and we were debating on either we should keep riding or split up. But yeah, just how the race played out, like having two in the front group, and we both felt really strong. So yeah, we knew that we weren't the fastest sprinters in the group. Would love to say that we could win from a sprint, but that wasn't the case in this race scenario. So yeah, we just played our cards and decided that we'd make it hard again through Des Moines, and then after that we would just attack each other. And yeah, I tried to gutter it, split it, and then attacked over the bridge, and then Pfeiffer backed it up with an amazing attack, and yeah, got the win. So really great.
Finally, it's a team victory with your teammate. Are you happy for your teammate?
Yeah. No, it was great. We go for the win all the time. So yeah, I know we won a couple of different style of racing, so with different people.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job.
Megan Jastrup, great to hear from her. And again, I think it's what we always say about, you know, when teams come in and you've got those multiple options to play in a race, because that might have not have been their tactic. You know, when they came in with Charlotte Kool and the plan to make it hard. And if we go back even to sort of 70k to go here, you know, they were very, very much part of really splitting this race.
They were, and you can see Megan Jastrup there just on Clara Caponi's wheel. So she was there right from the start, as was Pfeiffer Georgie, clearly feeling good right from the start of this race. They had two race scenarios or race tactics that they went into, you know, this race as options. One being a bunch sprint, of course, with Charlotte Kool, and the other to race aggressively. And they did. They played their cards perfectly, and they made the right calls on the road. They knew that when they found themselves in that group with Balsamo and Wiebes, that they couldn't leave it till the final, but because of both of them had strong legs and they both felt good, I think they were very confident to be able to then try again on Des Moines, which they did, and they split, but they still had Balsamo and Wiebes present there before they then started attacking, and it just worked out perfectly. And that's what happens when you have a collective goal and you all work towards that same goal. So yeah, chapeau to them. And I also thought something that was really nice that Megan Jastrab mentioned was that, you know, it doesn't matter who wins in the team. You know, they all work together so well, and they're happy when other riders win. And I think that's nice, you know, for the likes of Pfeiffer Georgie to have the opportunity where she's normally working for other riders. Now she's grasped that with two hands, taken it, and it's paid off today. So yeah, fantastic. I think we're all really pleased for Pfeiffer Georgie and the team.
And when we saw the time gap, it held and held and held, and then it just went out, didn't it? And then this was a really decisive moment. We haven't had any updates on, unfortunately, on Alice Barnes and Julie de Wilde. You saw Julie there, just had nowhere to go in that position. If we do, we will let you have them. As we always say, we never speculate, and follow the team's social media. So Phoenix de Koenig and Human Powered Health, you will get your updates from them as well. That was the moment, though. Megan Jastrab went, and then Pfeiffer Georgie just launching it over the top.
It was indeed, and it was a perfect setup from Megan Jastrab, and then the counter coming from Pfeiffer Georgie, and clearly having the legs to keep the impetus there. And she said she just rode as hard as she could all the way to the line. Lorena Wiebes, Balsamo, Deirdrichsen, all Shari Bossite looking at each other behind.
And if you look at, you know, as we see Elisa Balsamo and Lorena Wiebes coming in here, you know, if you look through Pfeiffer Georgie's career, as you know, she's won the Trofeo Alfredo Binder as a junior. She won Game Wevelgem as a junior as well before turning pro. And they've really, from those sort of victories as well, and kind of grew up racing the track as well, and they've really invested in her long term. Have Team DSM.
Yeah, they have, as have they, you know, with the likes of Megan Jastrab, who is also phenomenal as a junior, and Lorena Wiebes, who's also won, you know, the junior edition of Binder, just to name a few that you just reeled off there, Marty. So it's just great that we're being able to see these young talents being ushered into the female World Tour peloton, and then being able to perform again.
Tell us about your day at the front of the race.
It was a quite windy day. And yeah, it was all about being in the front, and then I made the front group. Unfortunately not the podium in the end, but yeah, I'm happy with my legs, and hopefully the next few races can be even better.
It's good to be back at good level like this.
Yeah, it's really nice to be back in the top end of a bike race. I had pretty good support from the rest of my teammates today. They all believed in me and tried to keep me near the front. I'm sad not to give them a podium, but we try again next time.
And tell us about the attack of Georgie Pfeiffer. What happened at this moment?
Yeah, you kind of know when there's two from a teammate in such a small group, they're going to try to attack. So they played their cards right, and yeah, I just couldn't really follow at that moment. So yeah, hats off, they did well.
Thank you, Emma.
And they do sometimes. It is Pfeiffer Georgie. There's some people do sometimes confuse and call her Georgie Pfeiffer, but it is Pfeiffer Georgie. Is our winner today, and a really well-deserved winner. It's a big moment for Pfeiffer.
It is. I think it will go down in history for the young British rider. Her first ever World Tour win, and I'm sure it won't be the last.
So we'll see those classics to come. We've got, you know, with Shirin van Anrooy and Alfreda Binder, it's great. It's a great start to the season. Seeing, you know, when we look around the World Tour so far, you know, we've had wins, you know, so far this season. Luis Aragast as well, new rider kind of coming through as well, with these sort of generationally and spread across so many different teams as well. Let's hear from Trek Segafredo's Elisa Balsamo.
Balsamo, if I look at your sprint today, you could have won.
Yes, of course, I did a very good sprint. I took a good second place. Today it was a really hard race, and the girls from DSM, they were two, and they were so strong. So, yes, I'm satisfied about my second place.
At the moment DSM starts to attack, everybody looks at you, at Lorena Wiebes, of course.
Yes, because also the other girls was attacking before, and then also my legs were done. So yes, it wasn't easy, but yes, as I said, I'm satisfied.
If we look at your results this season, it's getting better and better. You will be ready for Gent-Wevelgem.
I really hope. Gent-Wevelgem is one of my favorite races in the calendar, and so I'm really looking forward.
Okay, maybe you can win again.
I really hope.
Okay, thank you.
As we say, you know, the distance, the wind and everything just is such a leveler as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. You know, it's about who's got the most left at the end of the race, not just who is the fastest, you know, head to head. And we saw Balsamo beat Lorena Vivas there in that direct sprint to the line. So bring on Gent-Wevelgem is what I say. It's going to be another showdown, I'm sure.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one. It is very much classic season at the moment.
Deze editie heeft haar een derde plaats opgeleverd. Mag ik een applaus voor Lorena Vivas.
Third spots for Lorena Vivas from Team SD Works, European champion.
Gaat door Wim overhandigd worden en daar horen zeker en vast ook felicitaties bij. U mag een applaus geven, dames en heren, aan de derde Lorena Vivas.
So former winner here in Brugge de Panne. Third spot today, second last year as well for Lorena.
Is geweest en ook in de Panne al heeft gewonnen. Vorig jaar deed ze dat. Nu is het tweede geworden. Uw applaus voor Elisa Balsamo.
Elisa Balsamo. Winner last year, second today for the Trek Segafredo rider from Italy.
En om haar het boeket te overhandigen. Dames en heren, uw applaus. A big round of applause please for Elisa Balsamo. Maar ze hebben de overwinning moeten laten aan een 22-jarige Britse. Het is haar allereerste World Tour overwinning uit haar nog
So first World Tour victory, and what a victory it was.
From Great Britain, Pfeiffer Georgie.
Team DSM's 22-year-old British rider, Pfeiffer Georgie.
Mag ik onze burgemeester, de heer Bram de Kriek, uitnodigen?
Phenomenal ride from the Brit. To add her name to the Royal Call of Honour here in Brugge de Panne.
An amazing smile on that face of Pfeiffer Georgie. U mag haar nogmaals belonen met een overwinningsapplaus. Pfeiffer Georgie, with our congratulations. Op het podium van deze wedstrijd geflankeerd door Elisa Balsamo en Lorena Vivas. Ladies, we have 3 bottles of champagne on our podium, so go ahead.
So 3 bottles. You got to have a champagne moment, but this is a big moment. I think this is going to be really, it's a big moment for Pfeiffer with the classics to come.
It is. She's got the legs now. She's got that confidence. And yeah, again, we'll see much more from her, I'm sure. She'll carry this form into the next few races. And I'm excited to see what Team DSM can do with so many options, even with the, the change in transfer from Lorena Vivas at the end of last season.
Former teammates, there you have your podium. Pfeiffer Georgie, Elisa Balsamo and Lorena Vivas. We're going to leave you there from Marty McDonald and Danny Rowe. We'll see you soon. Bye for now.